OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
Hello there, happy Friday. Welcome along to OTB AM. It is Eoin Sheehan and Aisling O'Reilly with you right the way through until 10 o'clock this morning. We've got loads for you, as ever, between now and then. We're going to be speaking to cousins Padraig Walsh and Miriam Walsh. We're going to be chatting to Paddy McAllister, formerly of Connacht, formerly now, he retired last week, about a remarkable life and a remarkable career. We'll also have a very live and dangerous crappy quiz after 9 o'clock this morning. And of course, plenty of Euros content for you all morning as well. With England against Scotland, you might have heard tonight in Wembley, dominating quite a bit of the UK coverage across the papers anyway, that's for certain this morning. We would love to hear your view, as always, on anything you want to get in touch about. You can tweet us at Off The Ball. You can comment on the YouTube stream as well. Aisling O'Reilly, come on in. How are you getting on?
Good morning, Eoin. How are you?
Good now. Sorry, Celtic superfan Aisling O'Reilly is how I should be describing you as this morning. No debate about who you're going to be rooting for tonight.
Yeah, definitely. I think when Ireland weren't in it, I said, right, I'll get on the bandwagon here of Scotland, hoping that they can be the team to be the underdogs and pull out this performance, you know, that we hope they can. They didn't get off to a great start against Czech Republic. You know, I think out of the two games here, you would have thought that would be the game that they'd get a result, but look, they've nothing to lose. They're going to go out against England and give it their all, and look that they are underdogs as well. They'll be loving that and they'll thrive on that. So hopefully, here's hoping.
There is a grim sort of comparison starting to pop up between the Scotland team and maybe Ireland at Euro2012, where the hype was there. It was so long without actually getting to a tournament. Obviously longer in the case of Scotland in this scenario, and then things just go badly wrong for them immediately. And it felt at Euro2012 for Ireland as if like the easiest game was up first and they got beaten, and it was like, oh crap, Italy and Spain still to come. And it's a pretty doomsday scenario for Scotland. It's England and Croatia, maybe not quite at that level, but they're going to need to try and get something tonight. And we had Graham Hunter on with us yesterday, and he would bite your hand off for any sort of draw, I think it's fair to say, from what he was saying. Ronnie Whelan a couple of days ago, apparently I wasn't watching the game on RT, but he was by all accounts calling Scotland Celtic on numerous occasions. I presume there's like a couple of players that you're looking at there from watching Celtic live down through the years, from going to a lot of their games, that you're like, you can't not just root for them as a bandwagoner, but as somebody who actually supports the football club as well.
Absolutely. And look, the reason he's making the mistake is because half the time it is fully nearly a Celtic team a lot of the times. But I know Kieran Tierney's not a Celtic player anymore, but he was the big loss, you know, against Czech Republic, and that was the difference. I thought, you know, you miss him on the left-hand side. So look, hopefully if supposedly he is fit. There was talk yesterday that he did full training. So that's positive. So they might just be making it hard on themselves. You know, they might like to go the hard route. Yeah. So, yeah, look, you never know. They're making it exciting. And, yeah, it's going to be a massive rivalry in Wembley. So, yeah, with fans, looking forward to it now.
We're going to be getting the Scottish view from Robert Grieve later on this morning. We're also going to be speaking to Chris Stark of the BBC and of the Peter Crouch podcast a little bit later on. So plenty of balance coming your way throughout the morning. Who's been catching your eye so far in this tournament, Aisling?
Well, I think at the start I said France. I said if you put them down on paper, star-studded team, Mbappe, I would have said yes, France. But now, looking at Italy the other night, on Wednesday night, I've taken it all back.
You jumped ship.
So I jumped ship. I was just so impressed with them. They're just like Italian teams of previous years. You know, they're cool, calm, collective. Just the way that they're passing, they're pinpoint passing, and they're just so calm, and they're picking their goals nearly. So yeah, I have jumped ship a small bit. I was just really impressed with them. Locatelli as well he got his 2 goals. I think that was the first time he ever got 2 goals in a game in club or country. So a nice stage to be doing that on. And yeah, look, I've been enjoying it so far. There's a nice buzz about the place. So like even when you're coming into the house, if it's after training or whatever it is, you know, hearing the games on the telly, and it's nice outside, the weather's nice, it's lovely to be able to be watching them. So yeah, so far so good. Wales as well, I've been enjoying Wales. Seeing their fans crying in the stand there the other night was so lovely to see. So yeah, there's loads of exciting moments so far. What about for you? What's been your highlight?
Yeah, well, like, I mean, that Welsh performance the other day was incredible. And, like, there is this sense of Irish jealousy, I find, whenever the Wales do something good, and then we kind of sort of quickly realise that actually we don't have players of the calibre of Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey, who not only are they top class, but they also tend to turn up when it matters at a major tournament, and certainly at the Euros. They seem to love this competition so much. Like, I think that there's been just a number of supercharged moments that for a competition that's seeing like half-empty stadiums is kind of remarkable. And like in Copenhagen last night, that was certainly the case. Belgium, who I tipped pre-tournament, I was quickly rowing back on that after about 20 minutes last night, because I just couldn't see a way in which Denmark were going to lose that game. I just thought that they had come out with this cause that no matter what barrier they were going to come up against, they were going to smash that barrier, and there was nothing Belgium could do about it. And this unbelievably emotional, heightened atmosphere that Belgium had walked into, I kind of like felt it was like Dublin in 2009. They were like startled earwigs, to be honest. I just didn't see how they were going to get themselves out of it. And then you realise that they have one Kevin De Bruyne on the bench. And sometimes football actually just comes down to who has the better players. And Kevin De Bruyne was just absolutely majestic. And like, you're so right about this Italian team. Sometimes like you can have these collection of great individuals and they're so disjointed when they get to a major tournament. But this Italian team looks like a club team who've been playing together for the last 4 or 5 years. And there were moments in that second half last night, yesterday evening, when Belgium looked like a club team who've been playing together for 4 or 5 years. A couple of goals they scored were incredible moves. And at that moment, I started to not row back, but row forwards again, and stay strong on my Belgian bandwagon here, and think that is the sort of attacking prowess that can absolutely win this tournament. Whether or not they're actually going to have the staying power as somebody like France, for example, maybe that remains to be seen, but I still think they're just awesome going forward. And at the same time, I mean, the Danes this morning would be waking up pretty annoyed, I'd say, with how things went, because they were 100% the dominant team last night. They should have won that game and didn't. But I think that's also the sign of a great team. Is part of your Italian bandwagon hopping part of being on the Ciro Immobile bandwagon a few years ago, getting to see him in the flesh? Because for me, Ciro Immobile is this guy who has this bizarrely bad record at the international level, where he's just sort of mediocre for Italy. And when you look at his stats, it just doesn't make any sense, because for Lazio, he is spectacular. His stats have always been incredible, especially over the last 5 years or thereabouts at club level. You've obviously seen him play at club level. I mean, this was coming for quite some time, I'd imagine, in your view.
Yeah, he caught my eye back, I think it was 2 years ago now. It was Celtic and Lazio in Stadio Olympia in Rome. It was an unbelievable game, brilliant. It was 2-1 in the end, and Immobile scored for Lazio, and he always looks dangerous up front. Just like he did the other night, I thought, now for Italy, you know, he always looks like he's going to score. But anyway, this day, yeah, he scored, and he was just so attacking, so energetic up front, always moving, some great play, great passing. I was like, geez, who's that? I hadn't known him before that, I'm not going to lie. So that's when he caught my eye that day in Stadio Olympia, and went on to be 2-1 for Celtic. It was in the 95th minute, and Sham scored, and it was just unbelievable. So a massive experience, but yeah, it was brilliant to see Immobile that day. And yeah, so I've sort of followed him since that, and it's good to see him coming on well, because I suppose you don't know him as much for playing for Italy. Yeah. So yeah, he did well the other night.
Yeah, no, he certainly did. He's having a great tournament so far. And let's not forget that if he is top scorer and Italy win the tournament, David Meyler is going to come on and give us a rendition of some Andrea Bocelli classic. We're going to be joined by... It is going to be amazing. We're going to be joined by Phil Egan to get stuck into a few more Euros talking points in just a moment. But you were back playing last night, Aisling. Was last night your first game back playing? Yeah. How did it go?
Yeah, first game back. So it was Camogie, it was league last night. It was unreal to be back out on the pitch. Even at the end of the game, my cousins were playing me as well. She turned to me and she's like, "That was deadly, wasn't it?" I was like, right. That was deadly. Like, we were just so happy to be back out. We played Boardsmail. It was in Ratote, and we won by 2 points.
Oh, happy days.
We made it hard for ourselves now. These water breaks, these water breaks need to be done away with. Like, I'm done with these water breaks.
Why? What happened?
So, well, in the first 10 minutes, we were flying it. We really clicked. You know, we were running all around them. They hadn't scored. the momentum was definitely with us. We were definitely on the front foot, and then had the water break, a big lull. We just, I don't know, our whole momentum just dropped, and then they sort of got on top. So yeah, I think there's something to be said about these water breaks. It really works for the team that's maybe just not on top of that moment.
Right.
So yeah, but in the end, look, we crawled it back, and we got over the line by 2 points. We came off and just all looked at each other and said, we're not doing that again. Like, we're not. It was tough going. Our manager was nearly having a heart attack on the sideline. But yeah, we got there, and we were trying out the new rules as well, because there's a few new rules in Camogie this year. So yeah, we were trying out all of them as well. You're not allowed to drop your hurley anymore. So if you're going through on goal, or even if you're looking to hand pass the ball off, you can't deliberately drop your hurley. So a few girls were getting caught out on that. It was always a good dummy to have. I used to love using it, just to lose your marker and drop your hurl, but you can't do that anymore either. So yeah, that was a big thing as well.
Oh, I didn't realise it. I'd seen the rule come in, so it is like it's a material change, I'd imagine, for a forward then. Yeah,
it's even the backs there probably what use it probably a little bit more in the half-back line, because when they get the ball, they'll run out of pace, and then they'll drop their hurley a lot of the time to not get hooked.
Okay.
So yeah, a few of the girls got caught on that last night. And what else do we have? Oh yeah, and then also the penalty. You're only allowed one, the goalie in on the line, no defenders anymore. When we used to line the goal, you know. Okay. So yeah, we had one penalty last night. So we tried everything out really.
Penalty takers getting hat-tricks in every game, it seems, over the course of the next little while. We're going to have plenty more on the Camogie as well later on. Miriam Walsh is going to be with us, and it's a pretty unique piece. She's going to be in the company of Padraig Walsh, her cousin, both of Tullaroan, both just a field apart from where they grew up. So we'll be chatting to the two of them a little bit later on in the show. Just to let you know, OTB AM, live in association with Gillette. Good morning start with Gillette, giving you the confidence to tackle the day ahead. And as you can see, plenty coming up over the next little while. Phil Egan on standby. Robert Grieve of the Scottish Sun will be with us to give us the Scots angle ahead of that big game tonight. Paddy McAllister then, the newly retired Connacht prop, will be with us after 8 o'clock, and we will bring you that piece with the Walshes at 8:30. 9 o'clock then, Chris Stark of the BBC and of the Peter Crouch podcast will be with us to give us the English view and the hype going into this game tonight. A live crappy quiz at 9:10. And then Lee Chin, who was in conversation with Nathan Murphy last night. That full piece, if you missed it, it was great, is coming your way at 9:30 this morning. Phil Egan, a very happy Friday.
Good morning, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. Before we get into some of the Euros, what is happening at Spurs?
Spurs still have no manager.
Right.
And obviously we kind of thought that it was going to be Paulo Fonseca. That looked like it was going to be this bizarre situation where the guy that replaced him at Roma, Jose Mourinho, and Fonseca was going to be replacing Mourinho at Spurs. Then all of a sudden it emerges that that's not happening, and Gattuso, who famously clashed with Joe Jordan when Milan played Spurs, was going to be the manager because he had walked away from Fiorentina, and now that's not happening either. The Athletic are reporting they held talks, but that's it. They're not going to appoint Gattuso, so they've no manager. And you're looking then the list. They've gone. You'd look at some of the managers that were linked with them: Nagelsmann, Rodgers, Flick, Ten Hag. Obviously the Pochettino return. Conte, that was one that was going, and that was one that got Spurs fans excited. Obviously Fonseca then, and now Gattuso. So where do they go? Is it just going to be a case of Ryan, you may as well just keep going, or Scotty Parker?
Scotty Parker.
Here's the problem. They've held talks with certain managers. When they're doing those negotiations, and Daniel Levy, he'd be saying, obviously you've seen the new stadium, you've seen the documentary, and then he just slips in and is like, obviously Harry Kane won't be there. It's not an easy negotiation.
No, and it makes his position way harder to negotiate with Harry Kane if you don't have a world-class manager sitting there. Like the Gattuso thing last night, so there was a hashtag doing the rounds, hashtag no to Gattuso, which is trending in the UK last night. So this is about historic comments made by him about the role of women in football, same-sex marriage and racism that were shared. So people had dug up the skeletons in Gattuso's closet a little bit, and maybe Tottenham could have done their due diligence beforehand if that's actually something that was a factor in them doing a U-turn on this. So a bit of a nightmare, but we'll see how that progresses over the next little while.
I think they've dodged a bullet there, though.
Big time, big time. Better to pull out before it actually happens, rather than to be sitting there in a no too good too so hashtag in a month's time, for example. Phil, we do want to talk to you about the Euros. Where do you want to start from yesterday's action? Who was the standout performer from yesterday?
I think after the first round of group games, the feeling out period is over, and things have really stepped up the last couple of days, starting kind of from the Wales and Turkey game, which was brilliant. Then obviously Italy, and then yesterday the actually Ukraine-North Macedonia game was one of the better 2 o'clock games. Sometimes I'm sure that's probably the way they schedule it as well, that they wouldn't have some of the bigger hitters on at 2 o'clock during the day, midweek anyway. But that was a really entertaining game. And then you get into Denmark and Belgium and all that surrounded the game, and we knew what was going to happen. And Denmark were unbelievable in the first half, just like the adrenaline pumping through their veins. And unfortunately, they ran out of steam. And then obviously Belgium are able to bring on De Bruyne, and his goal was just incredible. And I was impressed with the Dutch last night. They showed glimpses, but they weren't actually very clinical. And maybe that's where they could get caught out later in the tournament. And again, they're in that category of teams that when we see them tested later in the tournament, we'll find out really where they're at. But it's been really entertaining the last few days.
The Dutch are obviously an unbelievably exciting team to watch. I think everybody pre-tournament, though, Phil, kind of had them down as somebody who might get far by dint of the fact that they've got a relatively forgiving draw, the easiest draw of any of the top nations. Is there a chance, though, that some of these players who obviously have got little to no tournament experience start to build up a head of steam here, and come the knockout stages may actually be primed to take out, who will it be? Like, it would be Portugal or England or Spain, wouldn't it, be on that side of the draw?
Yeah, I think regardless of who they play, there'll be a match for anyone. And what's been interesting with De Boer, I know he's got a lot of critics, and people were very surprised that he got the job, because Koeman obviously had been doing such a good job with the Dutch. He couldn't turn down the Barcelona gig. But he seems to be making these attacking substitutions at pretty much the same time in each game. And, he brought on Malen, and first thing he did was set up the goal. Things are going a lot better for Frank de Boer than maybe a lot would expect, but I do think you have to factor in that the group is pretty good, and Austria just always fail to deliver when they qualify for tournaments. I mean, it's not that long ago didn't they win all their qualifiers and qualify for a tournament and didn't do anything at it. So many teams come to the party, but they forget to actually turn up.
Well, you're bang on, but the thing is, you can not turn up to the party and nobody's going to kick you out of the party, is the thing. Like, Austria could still very much be playing in the last 16.
They could do, and even I mentioned Denmark. Denmark can still qualify for the last 16 if they beat Russia on the final day, and provided Belgium beat Finland, which you'd imagine they will do, because they're probably going to want to give more game time to the likes of De Bruyne and Hazard and Witsel. So then it's a case of Denmark just need to do their stuff against Russia, and maybe that fact that they didn't concede that third goal when Schmeichel went up for the set piece at the end, that could actually come back and work in their favour, because it could come down to goal difference. It will come down to goal difference.
So it seemed in the first half of that Belgium game last night that there was the sort of angle of golden generation done. They're well past their peak. They really had their opportunity to win at Russia, and that was their chance for this team. And then in the second half, it was like, oh, this team is actually awesome. So what is the truth about where this Belgium team are at?
The truth is that they've obviously got incredible attacking players. When De Bruyne comes on, and he's only going to get better as the tournament goes on, Lukaku showed again just how good he is and the role that he played. And he just, every time when he gets turned and he's running at you, forget about it. Like, he's just so hard to play against. And Hazard came on, and he needs more game time as well. Hasn't had a very good time at Real Madrid. And the problem is just that back three. We saw obviously with the goal they conceded, Denier. It's just such a bad goal to give away. Just a real casual pass out from the back. And then you've got Alderweireld and Vertonghen either side of them. So if you're playing against them, obviously, if they push on the wing backs, there's going to be space down the channels, and that's where the likes of Alderweireld and Vertonghen don't want to be, especially Alderweireld. I know he's played as a full-back before, but if you're a centre-half, usually by trade in a back four, you don't want to be out in those spaces out by the touchline. You want to be tucked in and not having to cover huge ground. So they've shown that they can be got at, but they're going to be exciting. And, I kind of put the Dutch in that same category as well, where their games are going to be entertaining. And even watching Italy the other night, we don't know how good they're going to turn out to be because, again, they haven't had a serious test yet. But all these teams that I'm mentioning, regardless of how they get on, they're going to have a go. And that's what you want to see in international tournaments. You don't want to see boring, sit in, park the bus and try and nick a goal. So it makes for a really good knockout stage.
I mean, you could be looking towards a team who could 1-0 their way all the way to victory here, Phil. That's what I'm hearing here. If entertainment is the phrase du jour, then, I mean, can England, after they didn't park the bus against Croatia, obviously, but they got a tidy 1-0 win, a decent 1-0 win. I could see something similar happening again tonight and against the Czech Republic. Could this not be the perfect environment for a team like England to triumph within the chaos?
Absolutely, and as much as I've talked up how great it is to see attacking teams, the team that everyone has picked as favourites for the tournament, France, have the ability to do what all those teams are doing, but they don't play in that way. They play well within themselves because they don't want to get caught out, and they have that bit of magic that they'll be able to win games. And England might be looking at the same approach, where we look at the England team and we all think the weakness is at the back, the goalkeeper, and the talent is at the top end of the pitch. So, if you protect that back four and protect your goalkeeper, or your back three, or whatever formation they want to play, then your attacking players will be good enough to nick a goal on the break. And I'm really looking forward to tonight's game. I just think the fact that it's 8 o'clock as well, it's a Friday night.
I had this earmarked months ago, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely, it is. It's going to be brilliant. And I think when the anthems are played and Flower of Scotland is ringing out, and you'd be thinking, there's a lot more Scottish people at that game than I thought. And they've already made their way to London, and it is do or die stuff from Scotland, because the fact that they conceded 2 goals against the Czechs, if they'd lost 1-0, they might be in with a chance, but they need to get something from this. If they get a draw, then they've a chance, obviously, going into the final game against Croatia. And look, I think he's going to make changes. I think Steve Clarke will make changes. They'll have a right cut at them. They will get chances, but they have to be clinical. England, of course, are going to probably love the fact that they'll get chances as well. And it really comes to the team selections. If I see Tierney in the starting 11, suddenly I feel a bit more confident about Scotland. I'm not saying I would be overly confident, but it'd be interesting to see what he does then in midfield. And surely Shea Adams has to start as well this time.
And do you think, Phil, over the last few games, except for maybe the Denmark game, there's been so few goals, like in the first half, they sort of keep it tight. You can nearly watch the last 20 minutes of the game, and it's really getting going a lot of the times. Yeah,
it is. It's really cagey in the first half, where you're obviously feeling each other out, and then the second half. Plus, you've basically, the way it's set up now, you saw with Denmark as well yesterday, they went hell for leather in the first half. You've got 5 substitutes. You can basically say to your team, look, you've got 5 players that can come on, so empty the tank. None of this conserving energy. But there is, I suppose we're getting to that stage now where teams don't want to play themselves out of the tournament after just 2 games, even though you still have a chance going into the final game to get a best third place. But yeah, it's just the nature of international football. The first 20 minutes is always cagey. So if you get an early goal, as we saw yesterday in Copenhagen, it just makes things that bit more exciting. So if we got an early goal at Wembley tonight, it could be an absolute humdinger.
Phil, I know you're right out of time. Just very quickly, the latest on the golf.
Yeah, Rory McIlroy 1 under par after his first round. You've got Russell Henley at the top of the leaderboard with Louis Westhuizen. Westhuizen still has 2 holes to play, though, because play was halted last night in California due to darkness. Shane Lowry also finished his round. He finished up on 1 over par, but he did well to recover from a triple bogey on the front 9. So McIlroy and Lowry certainly still well in the mix after the first round. Obviously, you're not going to win a tournament after the first round, but you can certainly play yourself out of it. And certainly a player who's definitely in the mix is Leona Maguire, a top 10 finish last week, and she's in a share of the lead after the first round of the Meyer Classic in Michigan. The Cavan golfer finished up in 7 under par, one of 4 players at the top of the leaderboard. And should just tell you, obviously, we've mentioned the England and Scotland game at Wembley. The other games to watch then as well, you've got the Croatia and Czech Republic game as well. There's a full round of fixtures in the SSE Electricity Premier Division. I should also mention the Sweden-Slovakia game from 2 o'clock. But I suppose all eyes will be on Dundalk and Vinnie Perth back at the helm again, and they play Longford Town. You've got Bohemians against Drogheda. Sligo Rovers go to St Pat's, that's second against third. Waterford against leader Shamrock Rovers, and Finn Harps against Derry City. And that Finn Harps Derry City game is 8, the other are 7:45.
Phil Egan, thank you so much. We'll chat to you again on Monday. Have a good weekend. The other thing to mention from yesterday's golf is that the beef between Bryce and Koepka has just gone to a whole other level. You will not believe what happened last night. It was crazy. It was ferocious. You had Brooks Koepka doing an interview on the Golf Channel, and while he is warming up, Bryson DeChambeau comes up behind him and waves in the background. Can you believe it? The most brutal rivalry in the history of sport, I think it's fair to say. So we'll keep an eye on that over the course of the weekend. It is 7:56 on this Friday morning. Plenty coming up on the show. We'll hear from Paddy McAllister, who's just retired from rugby this week. Then there's the crappy quiz. And Chris Stark will join us to talk England. Right now, though, on OTB AM, we're talking Scotland with Robert Grieve.
OTB AM.
It is a massive day tonight. It is England against Scotland in Wembley Stadium. Robert Grieve of the Scottish Sun is with us. Good morning to you, Robert.
Good morning, how are you?
Good now. So I presume the mood in the camp has been quashed somewhat by what's happened in that Czech Republic game, the madness of the result, the madness of Schick's second goal. What's the last couple of days been like?
All very Scottish is what the last couple of days have been like. It's been typical Scotland, hasn't it? We got our bubble burst slightly in that first game. Everyone was so up for the game back in the tournament where we all wanted to be, and then 90 minutes in and it's all doom and gloom again. Listen, it is what it is. We didn't get the result we wanted in that first game. Things went against us. I don't think we played that badly, but things went against us. We could have been better in certain areas and things could have gone a little bit differently, but hopefully we've learned for what happened in that first game against the Czech Republic, and we can go into Wembley tonight with a bit of optimism, hopefully.
You say there that it's very Scottish for that sort of result to happen. It's kind of hard to separate that from tonight as well, and 96 and the madness of that specific encounter as well. That has been the life of a modern Scottish fan, I presume, going to a tournament and expecting crazy things to happen.
Yeah, we don't need to keep going on about 96, by the way, because we've had it rammed down our throats from certain quarters for the last few weeks, and certainly the last few days. It seems like you can't turn on a television without seeing Paul Gascoigne flick the ball over Colin Henry's head and ram it into the net. Listen, yeah, a lot of it's been building up to this game. You know yourself, Scotland-England, the rivalry involved in this fixture, whatever had happened in the first game, whatever had happened against the Czech Republic, this was going to be the game that a lot of fans, most fans, are going to be looking to. So I think almost regardless of what happened in that game on Monday, you know, it's this game in its own right, it was going to be massive for us. So, and I'm down in London for the last couple of days. There's a lot of fans here, probably more Scotland fans than maybe be expected and anticipated. So, you know, people are very much looking forward to this game. So we just have to hope that things go our way. We get a little bit of the rub of the green. But you're right, it's Scotland, England. We think back to '96. We think back to 2017 when Lee Griffiths scored a couple of decent free kicks. If we get a little bit of magic like that, I mean, as I say, a lot of people are going on at Paul Gascoigne magic. Hopefully, someone in a dark blue jersey can come up with a little bit of Lee Griffiths type magic, and we can get a result that keeps us in the tournament and keeps the hopes alive.
Has anyone in the Scotland camp done a Phil Foden and dyed their hair blonde? No.
No, we've not got that in us. We've not got that in us. We've got a bit of sensible heads in there. Listen, that was good for Foden, reminding of Gascoigne, and that kind of bleach blonde look. But no, I don't, thankfully not. Not that I know of anyway. There may be a few surprises. Maybe somebody will turn up with that.
So
tonight.
You say you've been in London for the last little while. I presume that the mood in England is that Scotland are there for the taking, given that they would have seen Croatia as maybe their toughest opposition.
You get that impression, don't you? But equally, I mean, I don't know about yourself, but England were decent in that first game, I thought. They played well, but I was quite disappointed or quite surprised in how Croatia kind of let them play. Certainly second half kind of backed off them. I think we were expecting more from Modric and the Croatians. It didn't quite come. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of progress in their two other games. But England were decent in the first game. I think there was a little bit of kind of over the top kind of promotion of them. They're a good side. They've got quality players all over the pitch, in their squad, on the bench. I don't think there's any doubt they've got better players in Scotland, but equally that's always been the case, and we've always given them a game. So it'll be tough tonight. It's going to be a tough game for the Scotland boys, but after Monday they know that what they have to do. And again, I don't think they'll be overawed by the task. It's going to be difficult, but we've got players in that Scotland team who play in the Premier League in England. They know the English boys. They know what it's about. So we just hope that these guys rise to the occasion and our big players perform as much as their big players do.
There definitely has been that sense in the aftermath of Sunday, because I don't think anybody saw Croatia being that bad, regardless of all the retirements over the last few years. And I would contend that England's level has to be matched with Portugal and France and Italy, as opposed to getting a 1-0 win over Croatia when they're clearly by far the better team. So I know it's impossible to not overrate England when the media frenzy that surrounds them is unparalleled around the continent. But there does seem to be a little bit of an over-satisfaction with that performance, I find, with their game against Croatia.
Yeah, I thought so as well. I thought they talked the performance up more than it was entitled to be done. England were decent. I thought they were decent. Phillips, I mean, they had some good performances in the game, but equally Harry Kane, I thought, was, by his standards, off it. It'll be interesting to see how he clicks and progresses in the tournament. But yeah, I agree with you. I thought the reaction to the performance was more positive than it could have been. But equally, they got a result. They got a win. It got them off and running. So I don't think anyone's under any illusions from a Scotland point of view. England are a good team. They've got good players, got a good manager, a very good manager. I'm really impressed with Gareth Southgate on and off the pitch, how he's handled things. But yeah, I do certainly think that the reaction to that performance and result, and I say certainly the performance, was a little bit over the top, but we should maybe be used to that by now.
Has it been the other way then for Scotland? Has there been criticism that's been over the top for Steve Clarke in particular this week?
I think the reviews of the game, I think the opinions from the game have been quite fair, certainly from a media, from a press point of view. Scotland didn't play particularly well. I think we all accept that. I think people were surprised by the lineup. Obviously, Kieran Tierney being injured was a huge blow. He didn't play Shea Adams up front. He came on at half time. So there was certainly criticism in that sense in the way we played, but equally that game could have been 2 each. We could have won it 4-3. It could have been any score. It was actually quite a strange international game. If you look, there was actually a good number of chances at both ends. They could have scored 4 goals. We could have scored 4 goals. For an international game of football, I think that was actually quite unusual. But Scotland could have been played better. I don't think our big players, like John McGinn, by his standards, wasn't at the level he would have probably hoped. Scott McTominay the same. I do think our bigger players could have played better. But equally, we created a number of chances. We could easily have scored 3 or 4 goals. The opportunities were there for us to get something from the game. So had that game finished 2 each, and we're sitting here with a point, I don't think it would have been. I think that could have happened. So I think we have to be balanced. I was talking to Steve. The press were talking to Steve Clarke the other day, and that was the point that he was making, that it was a game of fine margins. It could easily have been different. Having said that, we could have certainly played better. But you look at that second goal, it was a freakish goal. You know, we criticise Jack Henry for taking the shot on. People were then criticising David Marshall for his positioning, but for me, it was a freak. Patrick Stick could have tried that. Could have tried that 20 times, and he would have hit the net twice with it. So I think we have to just take the positives from the performance and hopefully take that into the England game tonight.
Has Clarke copped a bit of flack when it comes to his starting team selection?
Yeah, I think people were surprised slightly. Yeah, I say the Kieran Tierney situation with his injury, it affected the plan. There's no doubt Scotland had been working on that plan, Tierney and Robertson left-hand side, probably for weeks. And that threw him and his plans. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But Scotland didn't play through the thirds. We didn't play through midfield. We seemed to go direct to Stephen O'Donnell wide right and Dykes up front, and it didn't suit us. I don't think we didn't do enough through the midfield, and as a consequence of that, I think it suited the Czech Republic. But in fairness to the Czech Republic, they nullified our midfield. They nullified John McGinn, Scott McTominay, and didn't let them play. As much as I'm saying our big players didn't perform, Czech Republic, in fairness to them, didn't let them perform. So that was something. But I hope at Wembley that we do try and play, that we try and actually play through midfield, because that's where Scotland have been decent in the last few months. We did it against Holland in a friendly a couple of weeks ago in Portugal. I hope that's what we do, and rather than trying to play off second balls, but going from kind of back to front, that we should be beyond that now, and I hope that's how they play at Wembley.
Does it all come down to Kieran Tierney once again, and whether or not he's in the starting team?
I hope not, because I personally I'll be surprised if he is in the starting team. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it doesn't come down to that. I suspect Steve Clarke, having spoken to him a couple of times this week, I think he will be working on a plan without Kieran Tierney. If he manages to get the nod to play, then great. I think it would be a significant boost for Scotland. But equally, we can't just say if Kieran Tierney's not there, that's it. You know, we've got to be looking at other ways to get something from the game. That's essentially as well. We don't have to win the game. I think if Scotland can get a draw here tonight, it's still very much there for us. So as much as the first game was a hugely disappointing result, we don't have to go to Wembley and beat England. You know, I think we would all take a point right now. We would all snatch our hand off for a draw. So it's not as if it's absolutely all pressure on. There is pressure on the players, but again, I wouldn't put it all down to Kieran Tierney, no, because I personally, I hope he's fit. I hope he's able to play. But if you were asking me right now, I would be surprised.
Because it did seem the other day, in fairness, that before we get into maybe the rest of the team, it did seem like Andy Robertson was as influential as you would have hoped, especially in that first half.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. For all that we are disappointed, and we talk about the Tierney situation and the Robertson situation down the left-hand side. Andy Robertson had a great chance at nothing each to score down the left-hand side. He got in and he put a great cross in from the left-hand side first half for Lyndon Dykes. He missed the target. Second half, with a number of balls that Andy Robertson put in from the left-hand side. Andy Robertson had a decent game. So you're right, for all that Kieran Tierney wasn't there, and it was definitely a blow to the team in the way that we played, we still created a number of opportunities from that side of the pitch. So again, that was one of the actual positives from it. It wasn't as if we were inept on that side of the pitch, far from it. We created a number of chances, and as I say, Andy Robertson should actually have scored in the first half.
Why didn't he start Shea Adams?
That's a good question, and we've asked him, and Steve will go down the route of kind of hindsight's wonderful, you know. I think if privately, I think he probably regrets it, but yeah, it was a strange one for me. That was the one that surprised me. It didn't surprise me we didn't play with two strikers. There was chat that we may play with Dykes and Adams together, but I didn't think he would do that. I thought he would play someone off a striker like he did with Ryan Christie or even Ryan Fraser off the striker. But for me, yeah, it should have been Shea Adams. I think Scotland have gone to a lot of effort to get him into the squad. He's looked really good for us in the games that he's played up until now. So had you asked me who would be the striker for us in that first game, I would have said Shea Adams all day long.
Right.
So, and that's no criticism, no major criticism of Lyndon Dykes, but for me, Shea Adams is a better player. They're different players, but yeah, that was a surprising one, absolutely.
You don't want to be thinking bigger picture on the day of an England game, because this thing is very much still alive for Scotland. But you do look at some of the pivotal positions and the age profile of players in some of those pivotal positions. Is there a sense that this could be a really important week in terms of learning those hard lessons that comes with tournament football? Yeah, you could be right with that. I mean, Steve Clarke himself, I'm not saying he would consider this future, and I'm not saying he should, but you wonder how it could affect him if things were to go pear-shaped for Scotland in terms of his own position. I don't mean the SFA making a decision, but he could. I'm not saying he will, but he could. So yeah, I do think we have to look at the bigger picture, but that's probably not for today. I think we have to look at here and now. We're at the tournament. It's been a long time since Scotland were at a major tournament. We've gone on about that since we qualified. 23 years is a long time. So it's still very much all to play for. We've still got 2 games, 2 very difficult games. But as I say, it's not over yet. And hopefully the guys turn up tonight and do themselves justice. the sidelines have been very interesting over the last couple of weeks. There's a lot of assistance in the mix that a lot of people maybe didn't realise. Like, people will be looking at John Carver tonight and Stephen Reid tonight, and I mean there's a nice team building up there. Like, is there a sense that there's a good coaching team in place in Scotland and one to last into the future?
Yeah, very much so. Steve's got a great backroom staff there. As you say, Stephen Reid's come in with a vast amount of experience from himself, what he did at club level and international level, and as you say, John Carver as well. I think he brings something to the coaching staff which livens things up. Should we say? Yeah, it's a good coaching staff. It's a good setup. The squad are very much united. You know, we've been there last week. They're based in the Middlesbrough training ground in the outskirts of Darlington. Going there every day, speaking to the lads, and there's been a good spirit. You can clearly see it's not manufactured. It's clearly the guys are tight knit, and that does come from the coaching staff as well. So yeah, I don't think there's any issues on that side of things. I think the boys, the team, will be as well prepared as they possibly can be. Steve Clarke's a shrewd manager. He's a good manager for Scotland. As I say, he's due some slack. If he did make mistakes in that first game, which I think maybe you could argue he did, I think we need to cut him a bit of slack. He's got us to this tournament, and I don't think we can be too critical of him or his backroom staff.
Am I forgetting anyone then from the list of Scottish coaches outside of Scotland when it comes to Sean Maloney and that's it? What sort of impression have those Scottish coaches made abroad?
Oh yeah, you mentioned Sean Maloney, absolutely fantastic. Sean is one of the kind of bright lights, as you say, in European football now from a Scottish perspective, doing a fantastic job in gaining a vast amount of experience working with that Belgium national team. I know Sean, and I know how much work he puts into that job, and I think that will take him far in the future. He's destined for me to be a top manager, a top coach, and he can go as far as he likes in the game. For me, it's fantastic that we've got someone like that at the sharp end, you know, at the top level, dealing with these players and getting an insight, because hopefully maybe one day that Sean might actually bring that experience to the national team at Scotland, and one day in the future, who knows, or certainly even at club level in Scottish football. So yeah, he is, you're absolutely right, he's one who is actually at the top level, and that's fantastic to see from a Scottish perspective, absolutely.
Yeah, certainly lots of different threads of positivity that you can pick out as well from the last couple of weeks for Scottish football. Before I let you go, Robert, prediction for tonight, how do you see it going?
Prediction, that's a difficult one. If I'm being honest, I think it could be a tough night for Scotland. But equally, I think one each. I think one each. I think Scotland are more than capable of getting a draw here if we get a slice of luck here and there. If our big players perform, if Scott McTominay, John McGinn, Shea Adams perform, I think we could get something from the game, absolutely.
Well, enjoy it as best you can, Robert. Great to chat to you as ever. Thanks a million.
Perfect, no worries. Thank you, guys.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
Don't know what to get your golf mad dad for Father's Day? Well, you do now. A subscription to Golf Weekly, the best golf podcast on the planet. Packed full of interviews with top golfers.
Shane Lowry, how you keeping?
I'm good, thanks.
Watch parties with Golf Weekly guests.
This is our first ever major watch-along party.
And tips on how to improve your dad's game. For the perfect gift this Father's Day, and just $3.99 a month, go to otbsports.com/golfweekly.
Invisible Threads, a Go Loud original.
As we celebrate the 6th anniversary of marriage equality, Invisible Threads meets older members of the LGBTQ community who reflect on their journeys and tell their stories. From shame and isolation to conversion therapy, from living with fear to coming out as an older person. Join me, James O'Hagan, for this powerful 8-part series, winner of the first Go Loud Podship.
Subscribe to this podcast for free on the Go Loud app.
Why not check out the Boyle Sports betting app for a full range of markets on shots on target, assists, passes and more on every match of the Euros, all powered by Opta. Rated 4.5 stars on the App Store, you'll find all our latest odds and offers for the Euros. So remind us where to go, Stevie G.
Boyle Sports, this is betting.
18 plus, bet responsibly, gamblingcare.ie.
Sean, what's that thing going round the garden?
That is our new Husqvarna Auto Mower.
Automower?
Yeah, it's a robotic lawnmower from Husqvarna. Cuts the grass automatically, has GPS tracking and an app. Even works in the rain. I just thought, why spend time cutting grass when I could spend it with the family?
Great! You can put the dinner on, so...
No can do, love. Have to paint the man cave.
Husqvarna Automower. Never mow again. Learn more at husqvarna.ie.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
You're welcome back. It is 8:15 on this Friday morning. This is OTB AM. Now, delighted to welcome now former Connacht prop, also played with Ulster once upon a time, Paddy McAllister, to the show. Paddy, good morning to you. How are you getting on?
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good, thanks. So, 1 week down in retirement, I think it is at this stage. How's that been for you?
Yeah, it's been. I'd say the first half of the week was pretty good. It was just socialising with the boys, kind of last farewells. You know, I've said farewells at other clubs with the excitement of, you know, the prospect of another club joining. This was kind of weird where it was the final one, so it was weird. We had a lot of socialising, which was quite enjoyable, and then it was back to family mode, dad mode, and you know, without the excuse of can I get a lie-in or can I do this because I've got training the next day.
Is there a moment where you have to leave the team WhatsApp group? Does that happen yet?
Do you know what? I've left all the important ones. Right. I'm in Galway until end of the month, so I didn't quite want to leave that one, the players one, just yet.
Okay, you can hang around for a little bit longer. So, how easy a decision was it to actually hang up the boots this time?
Ultimately, it came down to, did I want to continue playing rugby with everything that's kind of gone on in my life the last 2 years? I've had a great career, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. I played for magnificent clubs. Rugby this last year and a half of the pandemic is something which I've never experienced. Life in general, for so many, has been something which has been crazy. And when it came down to it, I sat down with my wife and, you know, a few months back, and I said, you know, where would we be happiest as a family? And we haven't been up north, living up north beside family and grandparents in 8 years. And, you know, we've got 3 kids now. We haven't had that luxury of just dropping the kids off to the grandparents' house or anything like that. And we just said, we'd be happier as a family, enjoying all of those things. And ultimately it came down to, yes, we would. So whenever family life we knew would be better up north, it was easy decision in the end.
Is it fair to say that maybe if there was no pandemic, you might have played a little bit longer? Did it bring certain things into focus a bit more?
Yeah, the pandemic was a big thing and the pandemic I feel sorry for the younger kids who just started playing rugby, you know, mostly because they don't enjoy what rugby really is about, with the interaction with the fans, you know, going into town, having a beer after a good win at home or vice versa or away. You know, these Irish guys who are getting their first caps in empty stadiums where families can't be there. That's not what rugby is. And it's unfortunate that's the way it had to be, but that's kind of who I sympathise with more. This last year, there was a lot of stuff that happened with my family, with my wife included, which probably which made more of an impact in that decision rather than the pandemic, but the pandemic certainly was there.
Do you mind me asking, Paddy, what did happen?
Yes, so we were expecting our 3rd child in October, and at 7 months pregnant, my wife randomly in late August just took a major stroke, and for about, you know, she got rushed to hospital. It was in the middle of pandemic, so it was really weird. I couldn't go with her to the hospital or anything, and for about 3 days, well, about an hour later, I got a phone call from the hospital saying, if you can't get here in 10 minutes, you know, we have to make decision A or decision B for you, and both don't look good. There was a 60% chance and a 40% chance of both my wife and the unborn child not making it. And so I had to scoot down the hospital. I think I probably made it in about 2 minutes rather than 10. And she had to travel down to Beaumont very quickly that night. And that weekend was pretty touch and go for both of them. So she's making a full recovery. There's a few things that still have to happen, but that was a massive blow to mine and extended family and friends' life.
Were you at home when it happened, or were you out and about?
It was really crazy. I was just back from training. My eldest daughter was starting junior infants in a couple of weeks, so I took her to almost like an open day at her little school to meet the teacher and a couple of friends. And I came back home from that, and 10 minutes later, She walked in the house. She was outside with the kids, and she was there looking at me, but she couldn't. It was like looking at something empty, and she couldn't say anything. And I thought this was pretty weird. And I asked a few more questions, and she just said, I don't know. And whether that's rugby or life experience, we live beside, an Irish legend in Gavin Duffy, who his wife their family lives next door to us, and then in between us is another great family, the Murphys, who the wife is a nurse. So I just wanted another person's reaction to seeing what Deborah was like, just to confirm that I need to call an ambulance. So within 5 minutes, the girls came over, and by their initial reaction, I just called the ambulance. So they were there within 10 minutes of me noticing. And I'm lucky that the stroke didn't happen 10 minutes earlier while I was at a primary school with my daughter.
It's incredibly quick thinking, incredibly quick reaction, Paddy. I mean, those couple of months then afterwards must have been incredible. Like, it's great to hear that your wife is doing well and is on the mend, and that you do have a third child now as well. That must just be this insane roller coaster over the following couple of months after that.
Yeah, it was really tough. My wife, we had actually had a game against Munster in the Aviva that weekend, and it was my first kind of game to kick off the season. I think it was our last pre-season game, and our wives within this rugby journey, go through every emotion probably heightened for them than it is for us, because the next day, if we get disappointments, we can go on the pitch or whether that be training or in a match and physically tackle somebody and let that frustration out, where our wives don't get to do that. And she put in an unbelievable amount of work for the months prior to that game. And I remember going to her in hospital, and she really wanted me to play that game on the Sunday, and I just didn't know how I was going to do it. And I spoke to Andy Friend, the coach, and he left the decision up to me, even up until the morning of the game. And I managed to play like 65 minutes in that game. I don't know how. I broke down in the changing room after, and I just did it for her, that sort of thing, because I understand the amount of effort that our wives put in compared to us. And the few months after that, we had two kids who were older, and Deborah we hadn't had our third baby yet, so it was tough. We had so much support from Connacht Rugby within itself, the players, staff. Every day, I don't think we cooked to give a meal for a month, because we just kept getting food, whether that's the neighbours or the club. So it was. I understood it was going to be a tough situation, but it could have been a lot worse, whether probably at a different club or a different location than I was in.
We have so many conversations about the relationship between these awful life moments and what sport does to either put that into perspective. But in some ways, I guess it reaches a new level of importance at times like that. As you say there, the community spirit that you've witnessed firsthand from sport is something that would have positively helped you around that time. And I wonder, in that moment when you're playing that last pre-season match, where is your head at actually in the game? Of course, after the game, when you're sitting in the dressing room, it's a deeply emotional moment. But are there even fleeting moments in those 60 minutes that you play where you forget about it, or that you feel a certain weight off your shoulders for just a few moments?
I think sport is a wonderful thing where no matter what is going on in your life, when you're involved, and I guess I'm lucky at professional level, it's so high tempoed, and you've got to be switched on or you will be made a fool out of, or injured or stuff like that. And I was lucky that I probably had that release where I could go and just run around and just try and forget naturally, not intentionally, just naturally. You kind of forget anything that's going on in the world. I'd say that it did sneak into my mind a couple of times, but it's very quickly, washed out whenever you've got John Ryan running at you or something like that. So you don't want to be thinking about your wife when someone like that's running at you. So during those 60 minutes, it was tough. But I was actually, looking back on it, relieved to have a release, because it was the hardest time of my life. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I mean, the first 24 hours, I was getting a phone call every half an hour from Beaumont. And, when I answered that, it was either telling me she's here or she's not. And I was at home, just on the couch, couldn't sleep, and having to prepare a speech to tell my other two kids that that Mummy's not here, or Mummy's just gone away for a little bit. And I'll never forget it. It's still crystal clear in my memory today, probably minute by minute. And it does put things in perspective. I don't think it makes rugby that much more important, where I understand I'm very lucky in my profession, but I think it did the complete opposite, where it gave me this life perspective where life is precious, and family happiness, if it can be better somewhere else, then it's an easy decision as a husband and as a man.
Absolutely, Paddy. And how is your wife doing now?
She's doing great. She's really doing great. She's a little bit proud because the hospital are creating a case story of my wife Deborah, because they've never seen it. That was the scary thing. They've never had a 36-week pregnant lady come in with a major stroke. They didn't know how to treat her. They didn't know what medication.
Wow.
And they were contacting people around the world, but they don't do trial and error. They don't do trial on medications for someone who's pregnant that far. So she'll be proud that she's got a bit of a case study on her now. And we've got a few heart operations to come up later on in the year. But all things considered, we take that and run from the first week, no doubt.
Absolutely. And just speaking about life, you grew up in the Congo. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was fun. That's I'd say that's every little boy's dream world to grow up in. It all started with my grandparents, who after World War II from Belfast went to Congo in 1950. So that's where my father was born, and he grew up there, and the stories he has. And he met my mum in France. She's French. I'm very lucky. I've got that French side for especially occasions like this in the Euros, where they're probably the favourites every time. So I've got that I've got that half blood in me, which always gives me a trophy at the end of these tournaments. And it was a fantastic life. I've from animals to experiences to friends we're still in contact with now. It's something I'll be really proud to take my kids back and show my wife kind of houses and where we grew up and things like that. And I definitely feel lucky and privileged to have had a childhood like that.
What sort of work were your parents and your grandparents doing out there?
So my grandparents started as missionaries, and my father and my mother went after they met in Bible college in France. They actually started doing agriculture. So my dad was a manager of a massive farm in the middle of Congo, and then that quickly went on to missionary work as well. And essentially for basically all my childhood, when there was a war or a breakout of something happening within Congo where people were running away from the situation, my father and his trusted team would go towards the situation and bring medical supplies and bring relief to the disability. And that's kind of, the stories he has and my grandparents have were crazy. And it's something which, if you're not affected by it as a child looking in, growing up and seeing these individuals in your life, you'd be crazy, because it's definitely given me perspective. And I guess it helped me make my decision this year, where family is the most important thing. And, that's why I made it such an easy decision whenever we had that last conversation with my wife.
Are you acutely aware of the work your father is doing when you're living in the Congo? Like, are you aware of the inherent danger involved?
You know what? I didn't. I knew he helped people. But I remember being in refugee camps in the middle of Congo, going around medical tents, or where it be, living stations, and seeing. I remember this one vivid memory of seeing this man. He must have been 18 or 19, and he had both legs amputated off because of an incident. And as a young kid, I was just looking. I thought that was really cool, and wow. And and I asked him, could he still do a handstand? And he was showing me all of the tricks, and he was doing handstands, and he showed me this little tricycle cart that they'd made for him to get around the place. And he let me sit in his knee and jump around it. And looking back, that kid has just went through, I don't know what his story was, but obviously something horrendous to have his legs amputated. And this little kid with white kid running around, just asking him the most random questions, and maybe it brought relief to him or something different. But as a child, I just had so much fun. But as an adult looking back, there was definitely situations where I 100% didn't understand the gravity of where we were.
It's a remarkable time in your life to be experiencing something like that, because so many people do go and try and experience that when they're grown up. And as you said, that sense of perspective is something people try and chase, whereas this was very much bestowed upon you almost as a child, where you have almost a beautiful lack of awareness around the context of all of this. This is your upbringing. This is normal for you, essentially, being in and around those situations.
Yeah, it was something which I didn't think anything different. It was just life. It was something where maybe my parents knew about. I have two older brothers and a younger sister, and I think our parents were probably always knew that later on in life we would understand, and it would shape us, you know, what real life is and what's happening in the real world. And as kids, they let us kind of just talk to whoever we wanted to talk to, play football in the most random places you'll ever see, and then let us develop as men and women as we enter adulthood. And you know, I'm proud of my brothers and sisters. They've all gone into big things, but we still always have this kind of sense of perspectiveness on what we've seen as kids and how we enjoyed it, and you know, almost how enjoyment can be brought into the darkest of scenarios in life.
Definitely. And speaking about getting involved in rugby, I had read that it was more your brothers that played rugby in Africa, and then you were more into football, and then you arrived in Armagh, and that's where it all began. Can you tell us how that came about?
Yeah, so my two older brothers played rugby in high school in Africa, and I always brought a football and just played around the side of the pitch, had no interest, didn't know any rules. And whether, I don't know if it was genetically or what, you know, my brothers and sisters, they probably won't like this, my two older brothers, but they're a bit smaller than me. And I think the last time they beat me up, I was probably about 12 years old. And I kind of got the luck, whether I was the quickest at the dinner table or the luck in the genetics, I don't know what it was, but whenever I got beaten up my whole life by those two guys, and then went to Armagh whenever I was 14, and there was no football team within the high school, the Royal School Armagh, and you know, you had to play rugby. And after the first time, the physical aspect, I was naturally a bit bigger than the rest of my friends my age, and absolutely loved it. And it was probably 2 years after that, when I was 16, Neil Duck, who was the academy manager in Ulster, came down to the school to speak to me and my parents about me going into the academy. And to be fair, my parents and I had no idea what the academy was. And he explained it to us. And he said, if you worked hard in this, it could be a profession. And I guess that was the wrong thing to say to me, because I said, all right, I'll just work at this and not really at my studies. And I regrettably did that. But at the same time, it's given me a massive career. And Neil Doak came down, you know, from Belfast to Armagh 3 times a week, and in lunchtimes, and trained me on the pitch while my friends were having lunch. And you know, he just took one-on-one fitness sessions or gym sessions with me, and then after high school, just went straight into the academy, and it went from there.
And you say that you regrettably done that, but looking back now, you must be happy enough that you went about it that way. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I hope my parents aren't listening to this, because I started university as well straight out of high school in Belfast in Jordanstown, and I think a month and a half later, with the rugby and the studies, I quit without counselling with them, and I kind of told them, yeah, I've quit university. And before I could explain their obvious reaction as a parent, which I would have if my son said that to me. And I kind of just said, listen, school will always be there, university will always be there, but I just want to give this profession 110%, because it's not always going to be there. And they kind of agreed. I agreed that I would probably tell them and share my thoughts with them before taking action in previous decisions, but it's worked out really well. I mean, I've had, as any rugby player, you're going to have massive ups and downs, career-ending injuries, but I've overcome a lot of things. And, you know, I met my wife quite young as well, and the amount of memories we have with different clubs and countries and friends, it's been incredible.
What sort of career-ending injuries are we talking, Paddy? Because it does seem that, I mean, so many of these rugby players that come out of their career, the main thing they tell us is that they're happy to get out intact. Like, do you feel that your body's intact and have any injuries taken their toll down through the years?
I think those players firstly say that we're always going to have aches and pains after leaving rugby. you know, body intact means that we're not on a wheelchair or, you know, hobbling or have nerve pain. But I don't think anyone who retires kind of close to their 30s after a long career will say, when they use those words intact, it means that they're not, you know, they don't have anything hanging on or falling off.
Yeah.
But still pretty sore. In terms of the one I had, I was 22. So I started playing for Ulster quite young and was enjoying life. And it was the best time of my life. And, you know, I had something like just under 50 caps at 22. And I was in a team where you had superstars with Stephen Ferris and Ruan Pinar, John Afoa, and, you know, we got to 2 league finals. We got to the Heineken Cup semi-final, and life couldn't be better. And then we were in pre-season our last week in Bayonne, and I completely wrecked my knee in the last training session. I did my like ACL, LCL, hamstring, OTBAM, the whole thing was just gone. And that was a massive blow because I knew there and then, you know, it took.
We've just we'll re-establish that connection in just a moment with Paddy. That connection frozen. Full flow, really interesting stuff. You're listening to Paddy McAllister, former Connacht prop, formerly played with Ulster as well, and just this incredible story growing up in the Congo, moving to Armagh as a kid, played in that under-20s World Cup team, the same team as Peter Mahoney and Conor Murray, just for context, and obviously just this incredible career. I mean, I guess switching up the Congo for Ulster rugby, Aisling, is just this incredible sea change.
Wow, it's just an amazing story, and just hearing him speak about how he was a child and what he saw, and he didn't realise at that moment what that actually meant or what that was about. You know, he was so innocent to it all, and now that he looks back and he realises actually what his father was doing the whole time, it is just amazing. Yeah, what a story. He's brilliant now.
Yeah, for sure. We'll bring you some reaction to some of the chats we've been having in a little while. Just to go run you through some of the back pages this morning. It is Scotland and England all the way, as you can imagine. The London Times, Southgate, be bold and don't have regrets, is his message to his team. Shaw and James set for Scotland showdown, he says. And Nadal and Osaka out of Wimbledon is their other story on the back page. The Daily Telegraph, as you can imagine, also going big on this. Southgate says, we must seize the moment. England manager issues battle cry as James and Shaw come in to offer greater attacking threat. The Irish Daily Mail goes with the headline, Double Dutch, the pie kicks off, Orange crush against Austria as they seal place in last 16. And Cork's Horgan takes swipe at yellow slitters. We'll come back to that in a moment because I want to get your take on that, Aisling. The Guardian, just like the old times, England versus Scotland, 8 o'clock, Wembley. England expects we can't be shrinking violets, but must stay humble, says Gareth Southgate. The Irish Daily Star then. Stark warning is their headline. Kane looks to rule over men of the North. Harry Kane there saying that he's a better player than he was last time he came up against Scotland. Spurs in swoop to land Gattuso. That's already out of date. Gattuso is not going to become the next Tottenham manager if you're just joining us this morning. At the back of the Irish Mirror, play for today. Southgate says the Ericsson scare has taught us we must go for glory. The Irish Sun, meanwhile, Kane Scott even better. Golden Boot in 2018 was the reason for asking that question, but he's a better player now than he was 3 years ago, he says. Eagle for broke, meanwhile, is the headline on Vinnie Perth saying he and Dundalk's owners are happy to park egos to make his return work. And some more from Patrick Horgan there as well. The Herald, meanwhile, Maguire ready to step up. Southgate handed boost for Scotland match. Harry Maguire set to play tonight in the game against Scotland. Neil Jenkins then, I see Murray as a leading figure for the Lions. The Irish Times this morning. Nations changed on and off the field. This is Jonathan Liu writing about England against Scotland tonight. Match may only be memorable if Scotland manage to win. And then finally, the Irish Independent. Vinnie Perth, I can lift Dundalk. Returning manager says he'll ignore outside noise amid reports some players didn't want him. Delighted to say that Paddy McAllister is back with us. Paddy, you're there?
Hi guys, how are you? Sorry.
Loud and clear and looking crisp. You were full flow telling us where you were, I think maybe in 2012 when, was it your left leg, all of it just shattered beneath you?
Yeah, basically, just shattered completely.
Right.
took a few operations, and then I was saying, I don't know if I got caught or cut off, but you know, my best friend in the team, Nevin, had passed away tragically with his brother and father. And you know, as a young boy, even my whole life experience in Africa, it doesn't really prepare you until you experience something. And I had the support of my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and it was tough. It definitely helped me in you know, what I'm going through in the last year now with what happened to Deborah. But I think just coinciding with my leg and with Nevin, it was a tough year in my life. Yeah.
How close were you to Nevin Spence? I mean, this is obviously just this tragic story. I think it's coming up to 10 years next year of that awful tragedy. You said there he was your best friend. I presume it was through rugby circles that you two guys got to know each other. Yeah, it was. He was in one school. I was in the other school. Two kind of country schools, and you know, he was a farmer, and we always, you know, schools rugby within your province is such a small bubble where you kind of knew who the other opposition, who their star player was, and everyone in the country knew Nevin, and you know, we all knew that his talents in football as well that could have taken him to the Premier League, but he chose rugby. And we had a lot of things together underage, and we lived with each other with a couple other guys in Belfast as soon as we left high school for 3 years. And you know, it's really weird looking back on it now. We kind of, our careers just coincided perfectly, where promotion, first cap, contract, same contract, all of this stuff was really weird. And we became close friends. My friends back in Armagh and his friends back from his school in Wallace, and just kind of created a big group of friends. And his family, you know, Essie and Emma and Laura, his two sisters, you know, we're still in with me and myself and my wife still in weekly contact with them. And, you know, we love them as family, and our relationship definitely gotten stronger off of a very sad situation. It's amazing, I'd imagine, that bond that you build up with somebody when you're going through all these first-time experiences together. Like you've outlined there how important this was as a career for you, and here's someone else who's also managing to carve out a career in a game that you two guys love to play as kids. Yeah, it's tragic. I mean, he was a young back, so his career was definitely taken off a lot better than mine was at that stage as a big slow forward. But he was definitely onto stardom within country, with this country, with rugby, or whether it be worldwide. You know, everyone can see he would run into a brick wall. You know, if you asked him if he's doing this interview and you said, "Oh, let's see if he can run into a wall," he's got that farmer smarts that he would just do it just to show you guys that he was hard. But he was a great guy. Most importantly, he was a good Christian man, and he comes from a good Christian family, and he definitely left a mark with a lot of people, and he very meant. And we spoke about the rugby community, what happened to my wife. I mean, the worldwide rugby community that got together and sent over, you know, boxes and boxes and boxes. I'm telling you, you know, Nevin's room is filled with boxes of just support to his mother, and you know, she just loves reading everything, and you know, it was news everywhere, and that definitely comforted them. So this is all in the space of essentially a few months in your life, is it, Paddy? The massive injury, and then obviously that tragedy on top of that. How do you react to all this happening? Because it's your career under threat, and obviously a terrible personal trauma that you've experienced as well. Yeah, it was tough. I don't want to take the mood dark and gloomy, but for about 6 months it was tough. I had no release. You know, in professional sport, when you're on the injured list, you feel isolated as it is, and you know, you can do as much gym sessions and rehab as you can. It's very repetitive, and you know, all this extra stuff. And you know, Belfast is such a bubble where every corner, you know, you go, there's a memory or there's something, and it was just always haunting me in the back of my head. And rugby was definitely not in my forefront of my mind at that stage. And I remember it was my wife Deborah. 6 months after Nevin passed away, she, you know, the amount of support she gave me, she gave me the kick up the ass that I needed. Where I remember this, out of 7 days that week, I would just find people on Facebook and friends of friends, and see they're out in town, and go and have a beer with them. And you know, and it was 6 nights out of the 7 of that week that I did that and rock into training. And she said, you know, I'm done. And, you know, and the selfish sportsman, you know, that we are, I was like, you know, how can you say that? It was my knee and it's my friend. And she said, she agreed everything. And she said, listen, I love you.
and I'm here for you and have been, but I can't keep going on like this. You need to either get help or snap out of it. And thankfully, 6 months later, after that conversation, it was done. That was it. And I'm thankful I listened to her, because, we've got a beautiful family now. I don't know what road my life would have taken if I didn't listen to her. I definitely don't think I'd have come back from that injury in the first place. And then the next step was to talk to the trainers within the club and tell them what was going on. In terms of, I felt like I couldn't sleep without even having a beer. I just bought my a new place. I couldn't stay by myself, and just be honest with them. And I got the help that I needed, and that was really it. So I'm thankful definitely for Deborah that was there, that gave me the right kick.
That was going to be my next question. Was the support there for you, Paddy, with the rugby and the team? Did they offer that support?
It was there. I think it was the best that could have come from that generation. No, that's not me saying anything wrong. It's sort
of changed now.
It's massively changed. When people talk about mental health, I was 100% depressed then. There was just nothing, there was no awareness about it. There was, you had to make 100% of the move to almost get treatment or initiate the conversation, which, as I just want to clear up, that there was nothing wrong or no fault of anyone bar myself. There's just the awareness of mental health, and mental awareness now is just so out there, where it's a lot easier to get that help. And yeah, I definitely struggled. I mean, even this year, I struggled, and it took me. I just had different responsibilities now than I did then. Now it was the case of, I've got 3 kids and a wife to support before myself, and all of a sudden, after a few months, that came too much for me. And I had to see somebody, Aidan, who works at Connacht Rugby and with the RPI. I had to see him for 2.5 months straight every week. And I'm not ashamed to say that it's what I needed, and it's just to have the courage to, whenever whoever individual is out there, whenever you definitely feel that's the time where you need to get some help. For me, it was, I could take as much mental strain as I could, but that mental strain started to have physical symptoms, lying in bed, hot and cold flashes, tingling all down my body. And I knew it was coming from whether it's anxiety or too much stress. And that was the cutoff point. I wasn't going to do my family any favors if my head was away with it. So I found the help that I needed, and I got it, and I stuck with it, and we made a plan. And you never, I never say if you go through these things, you're never going to go through it again. It's just, I know now the next time something like this happens in my life, I'm a lot better equipped of how to deal with emotions than I would have been on the previous experience.
How open can you be in a modern rugby dressing room about that, Paddy? Has it moved to the point now where telling your teammates that you're seeing somebody isn't looked down upon in any way?
No, I really don't think so. I think, that same individual that you could see could be trained in so many facets within the field. It could be sports performance. It could be, sports life organizing. It could be mental health. A lot of guys see the same person for different things. I think it's all up to the individual who, myself, if I'm going to see Aidan, how far I delve into the reasons. But it's definitely, as I was saying earlier, 10 years ago to now, the awareness of mental health issues has embarrassment, and it should, and I hope it does for everybody, but it definitely has for me, and I think for the majority, where I think now the support we've had from players and coaches, it's definitely just it's given them maybe a reason to help, and that's what I've seen from it. If people see within this sport that someone's struggling, I see more now it's go and help them any way I can, rather than maybe 10 years ago, he'll be all right, which is no fault of anybody. That was just the culture back then.
It's really great to hear that it's changed, Paddy, and it's really great to hear your story. It is absolutely amazing. I guess the one of the final things just to touch on, Paddy, is what's next for you. Like, I mean, you've touched on it there, that maybe moving back to Ulster is what's your next step immediately. But for somebody who's had such such an incredible life and has experienced so much. I presume you'll be itching to do something and to do something meaningful with your post-playing days.
Yeah, definitely. The thing that I'll be brutally honest again as well. I struggled. I kind of knew in the back of my head that I might be retiring this year, and I put a lot of work with Deirdre Lyons, who works with the RPI, who's fantastic in working a CV and trying to make it as beautiful as possible. And went on so many Zoom calls. Got trigger happy probably a bit too much with flying my CV through applications, and it's just nothing came back. They just said great looking CV, but no experience in the real world. And I was bashing my head against the wall going, it's this profession I've had, it's given me skills. I understand I'm not in the real world, didn't start the ladder of business world at 19, but what we've gained as professional sportsmen to go into an environment like that will either fast track somebody, the discipline we have, the competitiveness, the speaking, the public speaking, the leadership qualities. Just no one took an opportunity for even an interview. And I'm lucky that through John Andreas actually helped me. He's an ex-player and has a sporting agency. We got in touch after I heard about his last year and difficulties in playing. And he got me set up with a couple men in Belfast through a WhatsApp group, and we had a Zoom call. And on the back of that, a job has come from just having a conversation.
Right.
And that's all I was screaming for, was someone just give me an opportunity to try and sell myself, because I know on paper he hasn't worked. He's 32. He hasn't done, he hasn't been on a computer or done this, for the last 14, 13 years. But luckily, these guys had an opportunity to speak to me, and on the back of one Zoom call, I started a new job in August up north, and me and the kids and my wife are so excited because we haven't been back up north in 8 years, and just to be with cousins and grandparents and brothers and sisters and friends that we haven't seen and been able, their families have grown. It's just gonna be a really exciting summer, and we're just really looking forward to it.
That's great to hear, Paddy. Congratulations on that. And thank you so much for being so honest with all the different things that have happened in your life this morning. It's been brilliant listening to you. Thanks so much for coming on the show and chatting to us.
Guys, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Cheers. Thank you. Paddy McAllister there, recently retired with Connacht, formerly of Ulster as well. What a life. Absolutely incredible. It is 8:52 on this Friday morning, episode 6 of the Football Pod, available right now to listen to. Paddy Andrews and Andy Moran reacting to the Cillian O'Connor injury news, Galway's relegation, and also Dublin's ability to routinely smother teams. Paddy here tries to explain how they're so good at it.
I'll give an example, because it's funny. We used to play everyone knows the A's and B games. I think so. Dublin, we played kind of training games.
You were surely always on the A team, were you?
For a very too brief a period. By the end of my career, I was on the B team. Right?
So who you be marking?
Marking Fitzy or someone like this. It's a complete shambles. So, but anyway, we go out, right? So the teams will be there, and if Andy, you'll notice this. Every inter-county player, every club player can relate to this. You're not in the starting 15, so you go out and you play a 20-minute or 30-minute match or whatever it is, and you're riled up. You're looking around going, I'm going to show the coach, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to shoot the lights out here and show them that I should be in the team. So we play these A's and B games, and there'll be 7 or 8 of us in that bracket. Michael R. McCauley, Kev Mack, all these guys, and we're like, right lads, come on, let's get stuck into them from the start. And you're playing the Dublin, the first 15, but they know that. They know that that's our mindset. So the ball is thrown in this training game, and we're ready to run through brick walls, and say Fenton wins the kicker. Dublin, the A team will just keep the ball for 4 or 5 minutes just to piss us off. they know what we're trying to do, and we're running around like trying to get tackles on, and McCarthy will pop it to someone else, and Scully will have it, and he'll be taking the mick out of lads. Not in a bad, but just they know they're controlling it, and in the space of 5 minutes, by the end of it, they'll pop it. They work it to someone, like Tom scores a goal or something. And we're there, the wind in our sails is gone like that. That's control, but it's also like, it's a really experienced team, and you can't get away from it. Like, the guys there have 7, 8 All-Ireland medals. They've been doing this for 8 or 9 years. They've played the best teams. They played Division 1 for 10 years. There's a huge experience and knowledge bank there that Dublin have built up over the years.
Yeah, really interesting stuff as ever there. Paddy Andrews speaking on the Football Pod with Andy Moran and Tommy Rooney, of course. It hits your podcast feed midweek every single week, and that is episode 6. It is out right now. Aisling, are the Dubs still the team to beat in your eyes?
God, I think so. I don't think you can look by them, can you, Eoin? Look, as a Meath woman, I'd love to be able to say we'll definitely put it up to them, but I don't know now if Meath are the team to do it. But yeah, look, they're just phenomenal. I've seen them against Galway in the league there 2 weeks ago, and it's just their bench. You just look at the lads on the bench and you just think they can bring on anyone here that will actually change a game. And that's the difference, I think. And then just their experience and of winning All-Irelands, they're holding the ball. They can have it for about 10 minutes before they actually nearly go for a score at times. It's just to hold at all costs. And yeah, I just can't look by them.
Yeah, Tommy's done enough to bury me on this show in the past. Actually, you do not need to do any more in order to build those hypes up or let them down. It will happen eventually. One day, maybe we'll be doing the show for 50 years before it actually happens, but it will happen. It will happen eventually.
Come on, Eoin.
Well, no, we've also been through that. I think Meath and Kerry are the two most spoken about counties on this show, so we do not need to do any more to push that envelope any further this morning. We will be talking Camogie in just a moment with Miriam Walsh, who's also on the line with Padraig Walsh for that chat. The final this Sunday, Aisling, this is like a very novel experience having this game on a Sunday evening, and I guess there's nothing novel about the pairing that we're actually going to see. It could well be a preview of the All-Ireland's decider itself.
Exactly. It is last year's All-Ireland pairing, and what a game it was last year as well. So I'd say it's going to be a tight game. They obviously came up against each other in 2019 as well, and it was a phenomenal game in the end, and it was Kilkenny that lost out by a point or two in the end. But there were really two tough semi-finals. I don't know if you've seen any of them, but I caught a few highlights, and the Kilkenny game I've seen in full, and it was Kilkenny that bet Tipperary there by 2 points. It's a massive rivalry there for them, but it was just a brilliant game of Camogie. It really did have everything, and I think Tipperary will be really hurting from that game. It was theirs for the taking, and I think Kilkenny, they did leave the pitch, even Brian Dowling, the manager, said we were lucky there, we didn't deserve that. So yeah, they just got over the line. It was Roisin Howard actually was phenomenal for Tipperary, and she'd actually played for the footballers the day before also. There's a lot going on now with the dual player. I'm sure we'll speak about that, but yeah could have went either way. It was 2 minutes, 2 goals in a minute, basically, from Denise Scala and Katie Nolan, just 5 minutes from the end of the game that really changed it all up. So yeah, it could have went either way, but Tipperary have loads they can build on, and Orlo Dwyer we've seen as well she'd been out playing the AFL, she got in there as well, she came on as a sub, and when she gets a bit more Camogie in her as well, she'll be a starter, so they're definitely one to watch this year. So yeah, it was a brilliant semi-final there with Kilkenny and Tip.
What is the status of the dual player at the moment, Aisling? Is it going to be another season of turbulence?
Oh, and I don't know. This is just every year now. We actually don't want to be talking about this. Anytime I talk to the girls, again, this weekend just gone, it was in Meath. It was all talking about Megan Tyne, who she's our dual player here. She's the only dual player for Meath football and Camogie, and she played a game. She played half of each of the games last weekend. So she played half of the football and travelled 70 kilometres and played half of the Camogie because of the fixture. So at the end of the weekend, that's all anyone was talking about, and that's what was in the headlines. And it's hard at this point. And you've seen actually Cavan as well. Cavan Camogie are really up and coming. They're in the Division 4 final. It's really exciting for them. They've 7 dual players, and that clashed with them as well. They were playing Meath in the football. So it actually came down to the managers speaking to each other and deciding, look, we're taking this out of the girls' hands. They didn't know who to choose. They didn't know what to do. They couldn't actually make any game. So they didn't know what to do, and they just said, look, we don't know what to do here. And the manager said, this is disgraceful. We're making this decision for you. So they decided who should go where. And yeah, in the end, Cavan did lose the football to Meath. So, you don't know if that had a bear, and I'm sure it does when you've 7 dual players and half of them aren't there. So it's just tough, Yeah,
I think playing a half of each and driving 70 kilometres in between is not the solution anyway. Certainly taking it out of their hands is better than that. As you say, it's not something you want to be chatting about, but invariably it will probably come up again over the next little while. Right, we've got plenty still to come over our last hour here on OTB AM. After 9 o'clock, Tommy and Nathan are going to join us as Aisling makes her crappy quiz debut. But right now, we are looking forward to the Camogie League finals and the start of the All-Ireland Hurling Championship with two Kilkenny and Tullaroan stars, the Walsh cousins, Padraig and Miriam.
OTB AM.
OK, today Littlewoods Ireland, supporting both Camogie and hurling for the 5th year running, launched the Littlewoods Ireland Camogie League finals and the All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship as part of their 2021 Style Meets Substance campaign. Partnering with Littlewoods Ireland for the launch were Kilkenny's Miriam Walsh and Kilkenny's Padraig Walsh. Folks, you're very welcome to the show. How are you getting on?
Oh, good. Great. No, thanks for having us.
So, Miriam, what's it been like doing media with your cousin today?
Yeah, look, it's been good. Yeah, Padraig's good. He's laid back. He keep me at my ease. Yeah.
She took a few wrong turns around Dublin, so she did.
Yeah. It was hard to keep into him at times.
I was thinking that you've been. Are you in separate buildings or what? Because I know that you grew up a stone's throw from one another.
Yeah, we're in the same building, just in different rooms here.
Right.
But,
okay.
Yeah, we're only Miriam lives only down the road from me, so we know each other very well.
How did that work as kids then? I presume that was just this hotbed of brilliant after-school games or whatever it may be at your age, because you'd be not too dissimilar when it comes to your ages. I presume whatever fields were around there, some epic games would have happened, I dare say.
Yeah, there's plenty of games that we would have been calling down to Miriam's house. She would have been calling up to us, and all the brothers, sisters and cousins and neighbours all playing matches against each other, and we didn't go too easy on each other. The girls probably hit us harder than we hit them now. So but yeah, I can still remember walking past Miriam's house and seeing her out training herself in the garden and setting up obstacle courses and drills for herself. So yeah, they're great memories to have.
And do you have siblings, Miriam?
Yeah, I do. I have two brothers and I have one sister. They both would have played, at school and club. So, we all took part in these matches out in the back garden. They were great.
And I presume that obviously you needed to put in a few extra yards or something if you were setting up obstacle courses for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it was good. It was great childhood memories to have, playing. We're just so lucky to be only a field away from Padraig's household. So, we great battles, and they always ended up in tears some days hitting the Padraig, but we didn't hold grudges. It stood to us in the long run.
So how big are these games? How many people are we talking here?
Naturally, you could have anywhere between 5 and 10 people, really, depending on who wanted to play on the day. So
right,
there's plenty of us, and some people took days off, different days. But yeah, there's plenty of us anyway.
That's incredible. Because even when you think about the last year and stuff like that, I guess having that sort of setup is just such an advantage. Maybe you didn't appreciate it because there was no COVID. You could get to your GEA pitches anyway and play your games. But to have that sort of resource, I'm sure you didn't look at it that way, but that sort of competitiveness surely brought you both on as a camogie player and as a hurler.
Yeah, definitely. At the time, sure, you were just having a bit of crack and having a bit of fun. But now that we're older and you're looking back on it, you can definitely see the benefits of it. And yeah, they're great memories to have. It's great to have cousins and neighbours so close to you there that you can just call down to any time you want and play a bit of hurling or whatever, a bit of camogie. So yeah, we're very lucky. Tullaroan's just a very small place, and if you don't play hurling, there's not much else to do there. So yeah, we're delighted to have that opportunity when we're younger to be able to do that.
Miriam, when it comes to your own training nowadays, how far removed would it be from the simple skills you were showing on that obstacle course, for example?
Yeah, look, I suppose they were all just simple skills, like running with the striking the ball on the run. They were kind of little skills that I needed to practice, and I was kind of one-sided for years, and you only get away with that as far as under 16, so it's important just to practice everyday skills of hitting the ball off your left and your right side. And at the moment, thankfully, I'm not quite sure what side is my weaker one. It just kind of comes natural to you when you practice all your skills, and yeah, they stood to me, I suppose.
Did somebody tell you that when you were getting up to under 16s that you need to work on the opposite side here, or was it just something that you picked up on yourself?
Yeah, no, exactly. You know, you'd have your coaches telling you what skills. I suppose that from club level, you know, you'd have good coaches telling you what skills to work on. And I was I was always weak on my right side, so I just kept on practicing and practicing. And you know, thankfully now I can hit it on both sides.
What about yourself, Padraig? What age were you when you got competent at both sides?
Oh yeah, I was similar enough now. I remember Dick Welsh, who's our former chairman of the village, came up to me when I was about 11 and told me that I need to start practicing on my other side if I want to start making teams and stuff. And when I was in 6th class, then I remember my brother Martin told me that I'd have to be able to hit off both sides if I want to get onto the team in Kieran. So so I was probably late at developing hitting off my other side as well. But thank God the two of them told me that when I was younger.
And how simple is your training then, Padraig, when it comes to intercounty level? Because Paddy Andrews was saying that the other day that the Dubs, during their quest for 5 and 6 in a row, people think that they have all these fancy things going on in training when actually it's very simple. It's just very skill based. Are you guys the same?
Yeah, very similar now. It's trains are going. There's no point overcomplicating trainings. Like, you know, hurling is a skillful game, but it's the basic skills that you need to be good at if you want to perform at the highest level. So I think keeping your trainings nice and simple and just focusing on them basic skills and making sure you're as good as you can be on them. That's the most important thing to be able to do.
Do you feel that there is an added emphasis on skills alone and kind of less of an emphasis maybe on some of the strength and conditioning elements of things this year in particular, given the high scoring nature of the games and the free flowing hurling that we've seen?
Yeah, because look, you had plenty of time there during COVID when you're on your own to work away on your strength and conditioning, that kind of stuff. So once you went back and trained, what everyone needed was to develop their skills and to improve on their basic skills, first touch, strike and catch and all that kind of stuff. So definitely, I think that was the most important thing once we went back trained, that we spent enough time running and all that kind of stuff. So it was to get back at the skills and get back at hurling when we had the chance to go back training.
How did that work for you then, Miriam? Obviously, I presume there was a bit of celebrating to do over the course of the winter. So how early did you get back into the gym, and how much of that was left maybe a little bit late in the day before things got back underway this season?
Yeah, exactly, Eoin. You know, it doesn't feel like that long ago when we were, you know, in December playing the All-Ireland, but we plenty of time to work on our strength and conditioning and our fitness in the meantime. I know we were working like on our own or whatever individually, and it was, some weeks were tough to stay motivated and all, but I'm just delighted to be back as part of the team now. And, you know, you're kind of nearly cherishing the moments a bit better now, and you're just taking your chances when they come. So it's great to be back now after the long break. But, you know, obviously we worked on skills. You know, obviously our managers told us what we needed to work on. In the meantime, we'd such of a long break to work on different skills and all. So, you know, we kind of, we're back now and we're just delighted to be back.
Is the psychology of this year different to the previous 4 seasons when you're very much chasing the crown? Do you go in with a different mentality as defending champions?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I suppose there's, you know, everyone's out for revenge now. Everyone wants to target us now that we were the champions from last year. But no, look, we try not to put too much pressure on ourselves. We just go out and play like it's any other match. But I know this year is going to be our year where we have to work as hard as we possibly can to regain our title, and that's it.
Can you take anything that you can learn from 2017 at all, maybe, and how you defended that title from 2016? Or was that just a season that even if you hadn't won the previous year wouldn't have gone your way anyway?
Yeah, look, you know, we'd won in 2016 and then we didn't go as well in 2017, but look, we've learned so much over the past few years, and I suppose the psychological part is a huge thing as well. Look, we stuck together and we stuck at it, and you know, we didn't give up after that real tough defeat in 2017. We got back as champions last year, so it's just like, look, everyone wants to win at the end of the day, but no, we're working hard and we're in a good place. So hopefully now this year we can retain the title.
Padraig, what about you? You were obviously part of the Kilkenny team that won in 2014 and 2015. Well, was there a different view in 2015, almost a heightened awareness of your rivals given you were reigning champions?
Oh yeah, definitely. As Miriam said, that once you're All-Ireland champions, everyone wants to beat you, So there's definitely that added pressure when you come back. But I think every year we come back very, very hungry to win the championship, and I think the best way to do that is to have a very competitive panel to keep you on your toes, and that no one is safe in their own position. So I think that's the most important thing. If you can keep that competitiveness in your own panel, then you'll have no problems with keeping the hunger to try get back up to the top.
Yeah, that's what all the defending champions seem to say. Like, did you notice anything from even the experience that Brian Cody would have had in the 2000s, having gone back to back to back to back? Was there anything that he brought to the table there from his experience when it came to actually defending your crown and winning it back to back?
Yeah, I think it just comes that when you start out the following year, it's just a clean slate, really. You try to forget about the following year. It's a new year, and you're not champions anymore, and you want to get back up to the top. And in order to do that, you have to take on everyone that you're going to be playing. So I think that's the most important thing. Brian was very good at that, at keeping us on our toes. Then I suppose having a strong panel adds to that, because there's a lad chomping at the bit to take your place. So that keeps the whole thing competitive. So I think that's the most important thing, is just to have a clean slate and take the new year as it comes.
Do you feel that at the moment with this Kilkenny panel, that in a very good way, your position would be under threat and everybody's position is under threat?
Yeah, absolutely. Every train you go out, you can see lads who are playing in similar positions to you, and you can see how well they're playing, and that puts pressure on you, because if you want to hold your position, you need to be performing better than them. And if they're going to perform better than you, then Brian has shown in the past he'll give the jersey to lads who are the best in training. So there's always that edge to it in training, and it's a great thing to have.
But I was just going to ask, are those training matches at the moment, is there a serious edge to them?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there has to be, because there's only a couple of weeks till championship. We had match week after week there, and lads were eager to get onto the team. So there's definitely lads are definitely mad to get in and get a jersey there. So the thing is nice and competitive. So hopefully it'll stand to us come championship.
Absolutely. Only a couple of weeks away at this point. I wanted to chat to you both about some of the spectacles you've been involved in recently. 2 brilliant games that you were both involved in at the weekend. Obviously, varying results. We might start with you, Miriam, here on this one, the win over Tipperary at the weekend, and obviously setting up a league final. What's it like playing in a game like that, where you realise that this is sort of mad, that there is scores going in left, right and centre, and you eventually come out on top? Does it sweeten it a little bit, or do you just care about the results and you don't care how it happens?
Yeah, look, I know we won there on Sunday, but we were a bit disappointed with our own performance. I suppose, look, heart and determination got us over the line in the finish. We were very lucky to come out on top. Tipperary definitely deserved to win. And it just goes to show you can't take your foot off the pedals. I know we're champions from last year, but I don't think that means that anymore. We're back to square one, and we have to just go back to the basics of working hard. And Sunday just showed that you can take nothing for granted. You need to just keep working hard.
Padraig, are you seeing a similar thing in hurling at the moment to what a lot of people are talking about, the sort of volume of scores that's popping up? And obviously in your game against Clare at the weekend, that was no different to some of the spectacles we're getting used to seeing recently.
Yeah, the game has definitely gone high scoring at the moment, and look, we probably aren't happy with the amount that we conceded over the weekend, and just shows that we've plenty to build on for the next 2 weeks if we want to be competitive when we're playing the winners of Wexford and Laois. So look, we've positives to take from that game, but there's definitely plenty of things that we need to improve on if we want to go far in the championship.
What's it like being in the middle of a defence, knowing that the game of hurling has elevated itself to a level where you're naturally going to concede a massive scoreline every week? Is there any frustration there at all?
Yeah, look, it's difficult. It's difficult. As a back, you want to limit the other team to as little scores as possible, and if teams are putting up a high score against you, you have to look at yourselves and see if you're doing enough to stop that. So it's definitely tough, but it's a great time for forwards at the moment. So it's up to us to try to get up to that level and stop them scoring as much.
Miriam, then this Sunday, obviously, massive night for yourselves. First of all, how looking forward to it are you, just in terms of getting back out there in front of fans?
Yeah, really looking forward to it. I suppose, we had the last time we were in Croke Park, we'd no supporters or nothing. So it's great. Some of our family members and some people from Kilkenny and Galway will be heading up to watch the match as well. I think it's at a brilliant time, 7:30. People will be tuning in, hopefully, on RTE on Sunday. It'll be great for the population to get behind us. So, it's mad to think only 89% of our population only don't know Camogie players' names or whatever. So hopefully now, Sunday now will help get our reputation up and going again.
Do you think that's changing?
Yeah, I really do. I think like Little Woods Ireland, our main sponsors are doing phenomenal work. Just by streaming the games and all, the way our families are at and couldn't go to our games. So it was important for them to tune in, and I really believe it's changing. And even their ads on television, kind of recognising Camogie players, it's great for our sport. And, we train as hard as the men, so it's important, that we get the same recognition as them as well.
It doesn't hurt as well when there's good storylines, good rivalries. This rivalry with Galway at the moment seems to be bubbling along nicely.
Yeah, exactly. Look, we've great battles with Galway, and we're really looking forward to Sunday's game. It's always a brilliant match whenever we play Galway. We're, two brilliant teams, and I think it's all on the day as well. So, we'll just have to see what happens on Sunday. Hopefully we'll come out on top, but I'm sure Galway won't make it too easy for us.
And then final word to yourself, Padraig. I guess there's probably a bit of jealousy there playing in Croke Park in front of a bit of a crowd. How much does hurling need these full houses, and how looking forward to it are you over the next couple of months?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can't wait just to get crowds in, and it's brilliant for the girls that they get to experience that on Sunday evening. Now you'd be very jealous of it. 3,000 people going to watch your game. It's a long time since we've seen that here in Ireland, so it's absolutely brilliant. They deserve it. They're getting great promotion over the last 2 weeks from Little Woods and stuff. So it's brilliant. And I'd say there's going to be a lot of people who'll be mad to get tickets to that game on Sunday. And hopefully there'll be plenty of people tuning in to watch it. And hopefully things will go well. And that'll mean that we'll have plenty of crowds at our games come championship time.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Hopefully a good summer of GAA in store. And just a reminder that Little Woods Ireland, supporting both Camogie and hurling for the 5th year running, launched the Little Woods Ireland Camogie League finals and All Ireland Senior Hurling Championships as part of their 2021 Style Meets Substance campaign. Partnering with Little Woods Ireland for the launch were Miriam Walsh and Padraig Walsh, both of Kilkenny, both of Tullaroan. You've been listening to them for the last little while. Miriam, Padraig, thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for having us. Thanks.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
The Football Pod with Paddy and Andy, our new weekly Gaelic football show with Paddy Andrews and Andy Moran.
Everyone at the A's and B games.
You were surely always on the A team, were you?
For a very too brief a period. But the end of my career, I was on the B team. Right? You go out and you play a 20-minute or 30-minute match or whatever it is. Ball is thrown in this training game, and we're ready to run through brick walls. And say Fenton wins the kick out. Dublin, the A team would just keep the ball for 4 or 5 minutes, just to piss us off.
Download the OTB Sports app and subscribe to the GAA podcast feed now.
Why not check out the Boyle Sports betting app for the latest betting and stats on every player and team with the Boyle Sports Euro Stats Centre. Rated 4.5 stars on the App Store, you'll find all our latest odds and offers for the Euros. So remind us where to go, Stevie G.
Boyle Sports. This is betting.
18 plus, bet responsibly, gamblingcare.ie.
First up, a Go Loud original from News Talk.
Get all the news you need to start your day with First Up, the podcast that brings you stories, analysis and interviews with the top newsmakers. First Up, available each weekday morning from 7 a.m. on Go Loud.
Subscribe to this podcast for free on the Go Loud app.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
19 minutes past 9 on this Friday morning. You're very welcome back. Let's give you a heads up of what's coming up on OTB Sports Radio throughout the day. We're going to be going live from 11 o'clock this morning with the Euro 2020 show. Plenty of build up to England against Scotland in that one. From 1 o'clock, It is OTB Gold, an Irish football special featuring Niall Quinn, Shay Given and Jason McAteer in conversation with TSN's own Kevin Kilban. From 3 o'clock then, it's Friday Night Racing, which is going to be live. From 4 o'clock, it is a Team 33 League of Ireland Legends interview, Pat Fenlon, the subject of that. And from 6 o'clock, OTB Gold, Joe in conversation with Ruby Walsh, right at what is coming up to 20 minutes past 9. It's the thing you've all been waiting for all morning. It is time for a live and unhinged crappy quiz.
Chris Martin. Oh, you're kidding me!
September.
Kyle Lafferty.
Are you joking me?
Is that right?
I know, it's not right.
Anybody else?
Leash, was it?
Like, that is one of the most stupid questions.
Darius Vassell?
Seriously, you all need to just stay quiet. This is getting really annoying doing this quiz.
What is going on here?
Welcome along to the shoutiest segment on Irish radio. It is the scintillating, it's the stupefying, it's the splendido crappy quiz. Every Friday we pit three of team off the ball up against each other in a no-holds-barred quiz of sporting factoids at the end of the week. Allow me to welcome today's contestants. Our first contestant today introduced crappy quiz viewers and listeners to his new puppy Bailey some months ago. Since Bailey stormed onto the scene that day, we have not seen the dog again. Was this contestant jealous of the spotlight being shone on his pet dog? Was he worried that the Darling of the Nation label will be sacrificed to Bailey? The crappy quiz demands answers. Justice for that cute puppy. Give it up for the Meath Hillbilly, Tommy Rooney.
Morning, folks. Listen, Bailey, I've taught him very well. He sleeps during the show in the morning, so he's currently, he's not even in the room. He's outside the door there sleeping. So I'll give him a shout if you want.
Yeah. But don't worry, kids. If you want to see Bailey, just get onto Tommy Rooney's Instagram and you'll see 25 photos a day. Tommy's worked out the algorithm for Instagram. Half of them are of the dog and half of them are of his girlfriend, and half of them are of him posing at the cliffs of Moher.
That is definitely the algorithm.
That is it.
That is it. No, listen, if anyone wants to work out algorithms, go check out Adrian Barry on TikTok. I know he's on holidays today, but go check out Adrian Barry on TikTok. That's how you figure out algorithms.
Adrian is on TikTok. What?
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Go check it out.
Yeah, Adrian,
become his third follower.
Adrian, he is downloading certain videos and putting them up on Twitter, so I'm sure plenty of his Twitter following will also be aware of what we're talking about there. Top class. Our next contestant today loves hanging out with all the professional American golfers he's made friends with as star of Patreon's own Golf Weekly. Some of his favourite guests include podcast regulars Troy Merritt, Moy Trerritt, T Merritt and Troy M. It's a major week for a major crappy quiz player. It's the beast of Ballyhonest, Nathan Nate Dog Murphy.
Hey, you go easy on our boy Troy.
No, in fairness, I mean, it's a great contact to have. Are you enjoying the golf? Or is West Coast time suiting you?
No, West Coast time is most certainly not suiting me. I went to bed about 1 o'clock last night and Rory McIlroy played 4 holes. I thought, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a long old weekend.
Yeah, well, so we've got a half-awake Nathan Murphy, basically, for the quiz this morning. So he's vulnerable,
Should
everyone.
still win, though. I'm still very confident.
Our last contestant today was only happy to come on this quiz once she was assured of a teammate from Meath and an opponent from Mayo. It's going to be like 1996 all over again and ready to go all Colm Coyle on the crappy quiz. It's Aisling, this town ain't big enough for 2 Meath personalities, O'Reilly.
No, I want to put it out there that I did not ask for an invite on this quiz. I know it's like a prestigious thing to come on this quiz. No, I mean, quizzes are not good. So, yeah, I'm going to laugh at myself.
Well, I'm going to be getting an angry text now any minute from Colin Buhig, who spent the last 6 months bitching and moaning about why he wasn't allowed to come on the quiz.
Hold on.
That there was some sort of hierarchy that he should be allowed in, and why are we keeping certain people off it? And then he was let on.
Nathan.
And he embarrassed himself and humiliated himself.
He did embarrass himself. He did, but it's a big thing, Nathan, making your crappy quiz debut. I know, not to pile the pressure on Aisling, but it's a massive day for her today. It's also her birthday. So,
no way. Happy birthday,
Happy birthday, Aisling.
Happy birthday, Aisling.
I thought I got through the whole show.
Wow.
I forgot earlier to tell Eoin, so happy birthday, live on air, on your crappy quiz debut. So best of luck.
We won't give away Aisling's age, but she won't be getting the vaccine for about 18 months. So.
We would have made a much bigger deal of that earlier on in the show. This must be a highlight for you. Crappy quiz debut for your birthday. Incredible. You can podcast the crappy quiz, by the way, on otbsports.com, the OTB Sports app. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to click the thumbs up, even if you contribute nothing but misery to your day. Forgot to mention the format. The format is the classic crappy quiz, series of questions on a range of themes this week. And then it's the slip and slide of trivia, which is the rapid fire round. And again, we would love your questions. You can send them in via postcard to Crappy Quiz Quizmaster, Off the Ball Towers, Marconi House, Diggs Lane, Dublin 2. Right, round 1 is the boring questions round, never multiple choice. Tommy, David Tubridy became the top-scoring league footballer of all time this year, overtaking Sligo's Mickey Cairns. Can you tell me who is in second place in the current footballers list?
Oh, so just to clarify, because obviously it's the boring questions round. You're asking me if the current player is still playing, who's behind Tubridy?
Yes.
Still playing. Killian O'Connor.
It's not Killian O'Connor.
God.
Anyone want to have a stab at that?
What do you mean, oh my God, you don't know the bloody answer?
Tommy, I don't present a 3-hour-long GA.
Hold on a second. It wasn't a bad guess. He's the top scorer in championship history.
Yeah, exactly. But how many league games has he played?
Not very many.
He played his 100th Mayo game last week. 40 of them were league games. 60 of them were championship games. Usually skips the league because he's got better things to do.
I didn't know that. But
it
Mayo
wasn't Killian O'Connor. These are the basics, Tommy.
We
Andy
were-
Moran is laughing at you right now.
We were actually chatting about
I'll
this
be in the
on-
hot seat next week.
We were chatting about this on OTB AM actually during the week, Tommy, which you clearly didn't pay any attention to. Killian O'Connor's only played 40 league games ever. Conor McManus is the answer, by the way. He's in second place. Nathan,
That was easy.
Question 1 for you, Nathan. Who finished second to Rory McIlroy when he won his one and only US Open title to date?
That's a joke. He could probably name the top 10.
Oh, no chance. Jeez.
No one remembers the second place.
Not when you win by, 8 shots?
8 strokes, yeah.
I'm so happy no one's getting any.
The pressure's well and truly off at this point. Well, Nathan could pull it out now.
Phil Mickelson?
Not Phil Mickelson, no. Jason Day finished second in 2011. Aisling.
I feel like you've got that question before on the quiz.
Jason Day does come up quite a bit. Aisling, to take a lead here, Ange Postecoglou will be hoping to bring Celtic straight back to glory next season. But can you tell me which post-Martin O'Neill manager has the best win percentage at the club?
Host Martin O'Neill. Okay.
So the key thing to do here is do a Nathan Murphy and list through everybody that comes to mind, and then even if you don't get a point, everybody will credit you.
Okay. My least favourite manager, Brendan Rodgers.
It's not Brendan Rodgers. He fell into the trap. The answer.
Ronnie Dyler?
No, the answer is Neil Lennon.
Oh,
no way.
Really?
Even in Neil Lennon's second stint alone, he had a higher win percentage than Brendan Rodgers. I
thought that was too obvious.
Justice for Lennon is what I'm saying. So it's 0-0 after round 1. Great stuff, everyone. Round 2 is the bit between the teeth round. After Antonio Rudiger showed some teeth in his battle with Paul Pogba earlier this week, this round will test your knowledge on the other hungry footballers we have seen down through the years. Tommy, question 2 for you. It's not just footballers, actually, it's all sports people. Dylan Hartley received an 8-week ban in 2012 for biting which Ireland player in the Six Nations? It is multiple choice. A, Sean O'Brien, B, Stephen Ferris, or C, Jamie Heaslip.
I'm trying to put myself into Dylan Hartley's mind. Who would you be most likely to bite?
Well, go on.
Give me the 3 of them again.
Sean O'Brien, Stephen Ferris, Jamie Heaslip. Who are you biting?
When was Hartley peak Hartley? I don't think Ferris was around. I don't think. Oh, Ferris, yeah. I'd say he bit Sean O'Brien.
No. Stephen Ferris.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought Ferris would have retired by 12. Okay.
No. Nathan, question 2 for you. Which footballer bit the nose of Daily Mirror journalist Ted Oliver in Dublin before the Republic of Ireland played England in the 1995 game that was eventually abandoned? Was it A, Paul Gascoigne, B, Neil Ruddock, or C, Vinnie Jones?
C, Vinnie Jones.
Nathan knows it. Correct. Would you have got it without multiple choice?
I would have, yes. Yes.
Quite easy.
Well, only easy if you know them.
Yeah, it's true. Aisling. Luis Suarez, to the best of our knowledge, never bit an opponent while playing for which of these clubs? A, Ajax, B, Liverpool, or C, Barcelona?
Liverpool?
No. Not Liverpool. Branislav Ivanovic will tell you that he very much did bite somebody while playing for Liverpool, suspended for 10 games for that.
Was it Barca?
No, it was Barca, yeah, because while playing for Ajax, he was suspended for 7 games for biting PSV Eindhoven's Othman Bakal on the shoulder. He was loving a bit of shoulder, then he liked a bit of arm for a while, then he went back to his shoulder with Chiellini. A man of many tastes. Round 3 is the Scotland versus England round. Nathan Murphy in a 1-0 lead here. Ahead of one of the most anticipated events of Euro 2020, this round will test your knowledge on the football relationship shared between Scotland and England. Tommy, this is a very easy one. Who scored England's other goal against Scotland at Euro 96, the one that wasn't Gaza? I'm sure you've seen the highlights package of this 40 times in the space of the last 7 days.
The questions aren't suiting me this morning.
Tommy.
I'm loving it.
Teddy Sheringham.
No.
Alan
Shearer, Tommy.
Come on, Tommy.
Nathan, in what decade did England and Scotland first meet in association football?
Jesus. 1920s.
1920s. It's one of the oldest fixtures in football.
1880s.
1870s.
1870s, sorry.
1872.
I thought maybe it was in an official game or something.
Football only started in 1920, according to Nathan Murphy, a classic Premier League man.
1992.
Ashling, question 3 for you. Can you name the 2 teams involved the last time a Scottish club played an English club in the Champions League?
The 2 teams involved?
Yes.
Okay.
These are tough questions. I should have got Shearer.
If you don't know them.
Should have got Shearer. And you should have been about 30 years closer with the 1920s.
Sure, it doesn't matter. If you're wrong, you're wrong. You're right, you're right.
So can you name the 2 teams involved the last time a Scottish club came up against an English club in the Champions League? And this is the main Champions League, not the qualifying rounds.
Celtic and the other Scottish one, isn't it?
Celtic and which English team?
Oh, Celtic and Man City?
Correct. Ashling off the mark. 1-1. It was the 2016-17 group stage. You're probably at that game.
I wasn't, but I remember watching it now. Woo. Delighted.
So there you go. Ashling on 1, Nathan on 1, Tommy on 0, which we head into round 4 with, which is the Fun Free Magic number round. Contestants get 3 points for getting the number exactly right. If no one manages that, the nearest contestant who doesn't go bust gets 2 points. The second closest gets 1 point. Colin Buhig impressed everyone last week by being a newbie to the quiz and having a pen and paper ready. Do you have a pen and paper ready, Ashling? There we go, 2 weeks in a row. This is great. I'm going to say that we can only accept the answer that's written on your paper. I'm also going to have to ask for your pens once the music ends. So, if you don't mind, give us the following number. The number of All-Star Team of the Year appearances made by Cillian O'Connor in his career to date, plus the number of own goals scored so far in this year's Euros, plus the number of NBA championship rings won by Kevin Durant to date, plus the number of times England have won their opening game at a European Championships in their history. Your 30 seconds expire when Sinatra sings Bright Shiny Beads. So to go through those again, the number of times Cillian O'Connor's been on the All-Star Team of the Year, plus the number of own goals that have been scored so far at Euro 2020, plus the number of NBA championship rings Kevin Durant has won, and then how many times have England won their opening game at a Euros?
I have to go for this.
Tommy going all in. Pens down. What have you gone for, Tommy?
Originally I had 21, but I changed it to 24.
Okay. Nathan?
Oh, no.
Nathan's gone for 11. Ashling?
Oh God, mine's really messy. I don't know if I should show it. 17.
17. You've all gone way over. The answer is 8. The answer is 8.
Has Kevin Durant never won any?
Kevin Durant's won 2.
Really? Cillian O'Connor has surely been an All-Star, maybe.
Twice.
Okay.
Cillian O'Connor's been an All-Star twice.
That's outrageous.
2014 and 2020. Worse than Cluxton.
Typical Dublin biased.
I got really confused there when you said Team of the Year.
The number of own goals scored so far in this year's Euros is 3.
3.
And then England have won their opening game of the Euros once, which was last Sunday against Croatia, which brings your total to 8. This is the first time, I think, ever that nobody's got any points from the Fun Free Magic number round. If you'd just gone for 0 and just packed it in, you would have scored something, but no, we stay as we are. It is Nathan 1, Aisling 1, and we...
I don't get a point for being the closest anyways.
This is a tough quiz. I'm having a bad day.
If Nathan versus Aisling gets the tie break, so them's the breaks. Nathan, you've won it quite a bit in the past, so we're on to the final.
Just because it's her birthday. Outrageous.
It's what
I'm so happy I got one.
The coin toss says in this round. So the score you get in this round will be added to your score in the previous round. 40 seconds for everyone to answer from the same set of questions. So we'll start with the person with the highest number of points. By tiebreak, it's going to be Aisling, then on to Nathan, and then on to Tommy. And if you get a question correct, I'll keep asking you questions until you get one wrong. And once you get a question wrong, I'll move on to the next person. And your incorrect answer also means a deduction of 1 point. Aisling O'Reilly, are you ready?
Yeah.
Your 40 seconds.
I have to do this as quick as I can, isn't it?
Yeah, as quick as you can. If you delay, we'll just move on. So, your 40 seconds starts now. What club does Netherlands' Denzel Dumfries play for? Too long. PSV Eindhoven. What AFLW team is Breedstack signed with, Nathan?
Collingwood.
No, as the Giants. Who is Scotland manager, Tommy?
Steve Clark.
Correct. Gianluigi Buffon has signed for what club this week?
Parma.
Correct. Name our GAA's county grounds.
The Athletic Grounds.
Correct. In what year did Harry Kane first appear at a major tournament?
2016.
Correct. Who is the French Open women's champion?
Oh, I can't pronounce it.
Krejcikova. In what country is the Copa America currently taking place, Aisling?
How did he do that?
There's actually no point in answering that because Tommy's brought it back to 3. Nathan and Aisling both end up on 0. Tommy Rooney from the depths of hell has won this crappy quiz. Let's play the music for Tommy.
Them's the breaks.
Raging.
Tommy, how do you feel?
Could his questions have been any easier?
Well, look, that's the way it goes. It's no point going into the rapid fire round and being in first position. Aisling, success leaves clues. This is what you learn. Try and keep it safe at the start.
This is here. Would you stop with your absolute bullshit? You spend too much time with Paddy and Andy. Paddy and Andy actually successful. They're not leaving any clues for you, Tom.
I've won
There's nothing
5.
you can bring back to
I've
Meath Hill.
won 5.
There's nothing you can bring back to Meath Hill. Can you imagine being in the Meath Hill dressing room at training these days? Lads, you should have heard what Paddy was telling me off there. Oh, this is what the Dubs are doing. We got to be doing it like the Dubs are doing. This is what nobody knows this. We're going to have an edge. Junior champions this year, lads. And Andy does this in Balladreen. Oh, wait, you see, lads, we're going to do all the sessions. Can you imagine that nonsense for 45 minutes before every session? Jesus Christ.
That is the greatest impression I've ever seen anyone do of me in my life. That was
you have put...
But I just... The one thing is I haven't been to training yet this year, so...
You have...
you're transferring to a team down in Clare here.
That's the problem.
No,
it's just...
Are you transferring?
No. Couldn't do that.
No.
Are you transferring?
He's turning his back in Meath Hill.
No, I'm staying as well.
Unbelievable enough.
Yeah, see, look at Aishling's travelling back for games. I'm travelling back as well, so that's just the way it is.
Well, Tommy, you've got a big win. Congratulations. Nathan, incredible impression. Richard Cooper will be put to shame by that. Aisling O'Reilly, happy birthday. Thanks very much for taking part. But it is Tommy Rooney's world. We're all living in it. We'll be back right after these with Lee Chin chatting to that man, Nathan Murphy.
Oh, you're kidding me. September.
Kyle Lafferty.
Are you joking me?
Is that right?
I know it's not right.
Anybody else?
Leash, was it?
Like, that is one of the most stupid questions.
Darius Vassell? Seriously, you all need to just stay quiet. This is getting really annoying doing this quiz.
What is going on here?
All right, so Centra are proud sponsors of the All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship, and they have teamed up with Wexford's Lee Chin to launch the Centra Community Matters campaign, which will call on people across Ireland to show what matters most to them in their local community. If you want to get involved and to see how Centra will champion communities across Ireland, just follow the hashtag Community Matters on Twitter or at Centra Ireland, or just check out any of their social feeds. Lee Chin is with us now. How are you keeping, Lee?
I'm good, Nathan. I'm good, yeah. Thanks.
You've been doing the media rounds this morning. I was just joking that the same questions come up a lot about Davy Fitzgerald. So if we somehow were to get through the next 20 minutes without Davy Fitzgerald, what takes your interest right now away from Wexford hurling? When you're somehow switching off from hurling, what's going on in Lee Chin's life?
Hey, just if it's not training collectively with the lads, it's probably training on my own. It's a lot of eating and a lot of just trying to get a bit of a balance in your life as well. Just to kind of you need that too. So yeah, there's a lot of different elements, I suppose, that come into your life.
What's the balance then? What gives you that bit of balance?
Just the balance for me is switching off sometimes. Just being able to switch off, get out of the house. Maybe look, I've a lot of friends, and you'd spend an awful lot of time with them, and you'd be trying to get up to different things, or maybe since the country's opened up a bit, you might travel around a small bit as well, just on a day out, things like that. But yeah, just maybe going for little walks and stuff. But it's the small little things that you just try to get in every day, because it's very intense as well, training and stuff every second day or whatever it might be.
The shortened league championship, will it be more condensed? Are you training a lot more, or are you at a stage in your career, probably a decade in, where you realise what works for your body and actually you can train better rather than more?
Yeah, well, it is important to, I suppose, look after yourself, and be quite aware of what you're getting yourself into, and suppose of the condensed season, because it can be very risky in terms of injury if you're not prepared the right way, I suppose. So I think it's why the league was vital in terms of having 5 games as well, just to get yourself some way game conditioned going into the championship. And as you can see, it probably happened with other teams as well and ourselves, that you've seen players pull up a bit in some games. Now, it happens in every game. I suppose it can happen in championship, but it can be a bit of a result sometimes of just a bit of a load, so quickly. But I thought the 5 games was completely necessary for championship preparation. So yeah, look, you're just trying to keep yourself fit and well, and get out of you're trying to get out of the league, I suppose, injury free as well, in the championship. So all is good on my end from there.
I think it's fair to say, Lee, you're in decent shape, and you've looked after yourself over the winter and over the lockdown. When you're doing those sessions by yourself, maybe not the with a hurl in hand, what's a Lee Chin solo gym session during like?
Look, it comes a lot down to, I suppose, nutrition as well as that, but I think when you're not training collectively in your off season, it gives you a real opportunity to just focus on you, and maybe just build yourself up in certain areas that you wanted to for a long time. And look, it's one or the other. If you're in collectively with a group and you're doing long distance conditioning training, it's very hard to build muscle, and it's very hard to build your body in a way that you want it to be. So I suppose having the off season, it was easy to take a bit of time to yourself to really focus on those kind of things. And I made the most of it. I made the most of it throughout lockdown. Look, hopefully it will benefit me going forward.
Is your body in I won't say a radically different shape than to a couple of years ago, but in terms of body fat, of what you were focusing on, of where you want to strengthen, what were you looking at?
I think I just got a little bit better with my nutrition awareness. Just working an awful lot with our strength and conditioning coach as well. Just him just giving me little nuggets here and there, and informing me a lot about nutrition and different things. And I picked a lot up in the last year or two. And I think that's kind of excelled me in terms of just the strength and conditioning on that platform. I'm probably a bit stronger now than I was in the past, probably a little bit heavier. Look, it takes a while adjusting to as well, but I'm happy enough with the way I am.
If you're a little bit heavier, are you running a little bit less? Are you conserving energy a bit more then during a game?
No, I think when you're training specifically, when you're doing a specific type of training, when you're getting heavier, you're getting more powerful. So it might actually just involve you getting quicker, actually. So like I said, it takes a bit of time adapting to, but you look at any athlete across the country, I suppose, or any athlete across the world, you look at a 100-meter sprinter or a 200-meter sprinter, they're built like they're big athletes. And then you look at, I suppose, Eoin's athlete like a Mo Farah, they're very small. So you just look at things like that, and if you were to go just on weight based on speed, you wouldn't think Mo Farah would be faster than Usain Bolt, So it's about having a bit more power, I suppose. And our game consists of sharp bursts of speed and being powerful in tackles and rucks and different things. So there's a lot of different elements to hurling, and a lot of different athletes are playing the game now. Some are big, some are small. It varies as well, and you just got to adapt your game, I suppose, to what you are. So look, things are okay for myself on that front at the moment. And like I said, I'm happy enough with how I've dealt with my off season.
And in terms of your practice with a hurl in hand, there's been a lot of focus, obviously, around high scoring and a lot of debate around the schlitter and the weight of the schlitter. We James Skettle on, the former Galway goalkeeper, on OTB AM last week, and he was very interesting, talking about how he'd actually taken out the weighing scales with a Schlitter from 2005 and a current one, and actually there was little or no difference. I think it was 1 gram in the difference. He was making the point that the biggest change is the rim, which has got an awful lot lower, which plays into the hands perfectly of free takers. Just on that, is that something that you have noticed as well? Are you that methodical in your preparation that you look at every Schlitter and you can see the subtle differences?
You would. Like, there is obviously particular types of slitters or brands of slitters that hurlers do like, and you'd notice it immediately once you get one into your hand, which kind of slitter you'd rather be hitting, but or playing with in general. But it
seems a bit mad that at senior intercounty level, like you could train with a different slitter than you could play with, because particularly for someone as a free taker where precision is absolute key, you want repetition in every part of it.
Yeah, well, I suppose you have to look at where the game has been restarted from most of the time, as well as from goalkeepers. And obviously the goalkeepers are probably what are selecting what balls they're putting out from the goal, and they're the game balls that are in play then after that. So, like, you know, goalkeepers, their game is very fickle too. Like, they want to be hitting the ball that they can get the best strike with, to put the ball precisely in someone's hand from puckouts. And you know the way goalkeeping has gone these days, that it's through a keyhole they're trying to put balls and stuff. So they're obviously wanting to be hitting the best balls too. But yeah, you would notice it. Obviously, you would notice what ball you find you'll get the most out of. And yeah, look, I've been hearing and seeing a bit of it around about the bigger rims or the heavier ball. It's not something I particularly agree with, but you know, I think the balls that we're playing with are just fine in the high scoring games. I think it should be viewed as a very positive thing. I think it's great.
I know there's been controversy in the past around selectors or where Fiorna's around the back of goals, throwing different balls to goalkeepers or taking different balls away. Excuse my ignorance of this, but right now in a championship game, when you start next week, could you have several different makes of ball within the one championship game, depending on the team you're playing?
Just from my own experience, Nathan, I know that when I'm hitting the frees or whatever, you might hit 3 different brands of balls throughout the game. Yeah, it's not always the same ball you're hitting. And I couldn't tell you what brands they are, but I mean, there's different brands of balls throughout the game that will be introduced, and that may be coming down to different like the both goalkeepers having different brands of balls in each goal, and within their bag they might have 2 or 3 other brands also, and that's maybe why there's different brands or different balls in games. But I'd imagine when keepers are looking to poke out balls, they're looking to poke out the best balls they have in the bags, you know.
And would that affect your scoring percentage, the different ball?
Not quite sure. Like, I'm not too sure if it would or not.
I suppose you can't let yourself think that because you don't really have any great control over it.
Yeah, no, you don't. Look, obviously, I'd imagine that. Look, if you were to hit X amount of shots from the same position, you know, with a bad ball, not necessarily a bad ball, but a ball that you probably can't control as much. Like a ball with lower rim, it's easier to control a turn, like the spin on it or the turn on it, or like some free takers or some people know when to hit the ball turns from left to right. And sometimes if a ball has a bigger rim, you just don't know what way the wind might interfere with it. So it could have an effect. It could have an effect in terms of scoring ability if the balls weren't to be of the quality that we're using at the moment.
The US Open's on this week, and we'll see a lot of side-by-side shots of Rory McIlroy, I suspect, over the weekend with the swing changes he's implementing at the moment with Pete Cowan, and we'll see Rory McIlroy 2021 up against Rory McIlroy 2011. And, you know, there will most definitely be subtle differences that the experts will be able to point out. If we were to put Lee Chin taking frees 2011 to Lee Chin taking frees 2021, would it be a different thing?
Well, I don't know, because in 2011 I wasn't hitting frees. I only really picked up the role a couple of years back. Look, for me, I wasn't always an established free taker in my younger days. It was pretty much something that translated through from the club only a few years back. It was something our club was crying out for. I suppose at the time we needed a free taker in the club, and I just kind of put my head down and I worked on him for a couple of months, and actually I got given the role in a senior relegation match at half time. Wasn't before the game, it was at half time. I was given the role to hit the frees in the second half, and it was from
pretty harsh at the guy who was taking him in the first half.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty harsh on me, a bit of pressure, but it was what it was, and that's how I kind of ended up picking up free take. I think it was back in maybe 2016 in that relegation game, and ever since then I've been hitting it from my club, and it just translated through to intercounty, where I suppose I was pretty much selected in 2019 to hit the frees with Wexford, and and it's just I'm still there, probably by the skin of my teeth for today, but Yeah.
So
look,
how has that affected your training routine? Because like the importance of the free taker, where you can be expected to score anything from 8 to nowadays 16, 17 points off frees. Has it added a big workload to what you're doing?
It does add an extra amount of time, yeah, they could be put into specialising in that area. Like again, it is a specialised area, and when you're assigned to it, you owe it to yourself, your team, your county to be putting in the work and the hours. And I think I remember reading something about Shane Dowling before that. Look, at this can be a particular case for some people. I remember Shane mentioning that. I think he didn't actually put a whole lot of time into it. And look, Shane was an excellent free taker. I think he mentioned in the interview that he went to his local field and he could hit 4 or 5 balls, maybe less, and he could leave the pitch. And he was probably just so in tune with it that way. But for someone like me, it takes a bit of time. I put a lot of time into it, and you have to put in extra hours, and you kind of have to create your own routine in your own headspace. But it's one thing that I learned even in the last year or two, is that you kind of got to be able to separate yourself from the actual game and the free taking duties. Because if one of them is going wrong, you don't want it to affect the other either. So it's vice versa that way. So yeah, for me, I've learned that as well throughout the last few years.
That's not an easy thing to do. Like, that does take practice, that does take learning, and it takes disappointment, I guess, as well, to realise, actually, I'll let that early free that I miss affect things for the next 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Have you spoken to people about that, or are there people behind the scenes in Wexford and around the club, or former players you've chatted to who've gone through those sort of emotions as to how to make sure you can keep your full focus?
No, not really. It's something that you learn to control yourself. It's something that you learn along the way. Obviously, the only thing that you really want, for me anyway, the free day, is you want the support and the people around you. And I get that in spades with the lads, to support me. In terms of if you have an off day or anything, even if you're in the middle of a game, I suppose if you miss a free, it's they don't, there's a well wish coming your way for the next one, sort of stuff. So look, it is like I said, it does take a bit of time yourself to get them right. And look, at some days you can have off days, as we all see around the country. Lads do have them, but it's a specialised duty you have on a day. But it's one that I do enjoy.
When you miss a free, are you able to identify quickly what happened, whether it was technical, whether it was mental, whether you got out of your routine, or do you have time in a match to think like that?
No, sometimes you are. Sometimes, sometimes you could feel you could do everything perfectly, and look, at last minute the ball could tail off to the right, and you might look at, it could be a thing where you'd say, look, I just misjudged the wind a little bit, or I might have been concentrating as much here or there. You might have got the strike as clean, or sometimes it could come down to the ball. Also, sometimes it could come down to the ball. If you got a ball with a bigger rim, that mightn't travel through the air the same as a ball with a smaller rim. That can have an effect too.
What is your routine then? So say we're in a match, you're playing Laois Saturday week, and we're watching on television, and Wexford get a free, and Laois is standing 60 metres out. How long are you taking to take it? What is that process that you go through?
There's no real time limit on it. I think it's just more about just focusing on the posts and your pick up and your strike, just keeping an eye on the ball. It's pretty much as basic as that. Everyone has their own routine. It's not really something that I can break down, really, really dissect it, but it's as simple as that. It's just, you're really focused on getting the pick up right and getting your strike off pure. So that's it. You look at the way you line up your body, I suppose, is another thing. Obviously you're lining up towards the goal, but I mean, sometimes wind can play an effect to that as well, where you might have to hit it a bit more to the right or left post sometimes.
Yeah. Who do you look at around the game, or who have you looked at around the game for their technique, for the great free takers that you'd I don't want to say model your game on, but that you would admire and think, actually, there's something I can take from what they do?
Look, I suppose there's some fabulous free takers around the country, obviously, and some fabulous free takers that are in the past. And look, there's no one in particular, I suppose, that I look towards to model their free taking. You have your own style, you have your own routine, your own technique, and you just try to perfect that as best as you can. Obviously, for the contribution of your side. So, yeah, for me, it's just about just myself. It's about me doing my own thing, you know.
What are you now, 28?
28, yeah.
So you're coming up, I think, on nearly a decade at intercounty hurling at this stage. I think this might be the 9th season of intercounty hurling. Your role overall within the squad as a leader, being one of the more experienced players, is that something you take seriously, that you've embraced, that you think about as to what your role now within that Wexford dressing room is?
Hey, look, I think it comes with experience, with the years that you've mentioned that you're around. I think it's not something, obviously you are aware that you are one of the role models or a leader within the dressing room. And you can, like, you know that you have to show examples of leadership and things like that. But I mean, it's just something that comes natural with the amount of time that you put into it as well. You know, you don't think about it too much. You get in there, you do your thing. As long as you're being honest, you work hard, you're showing really good examples. And I think it's things like that just, you know, they're so common, and they're so instinctive that it's not something you really focus on. You know, I have to go train tonight, I have to be a leader, I have to do this and that. Your passion and your desire will really show that, you know what I mean, in terms of what way you want to have an influence on the group.
So you're not there during the week thinking, I'm going to have to be making a big speech here on a Friday night of training or Sunday?
No, not at all.
Have there been many big speeches this year so far around the league after the disappointment of last season, where, you know, I think Davy was very critical of the performance, particularly in the Leinster Championship, and the players seem to take on board that criticism, even though the season ended disappointment then in the qualifiers against Clare. Like that criticism of maybe not working hard enough is one of the worst criticisms we can give, particularly a GEA player, where so much of it is built upon emotion. Is that something you face down as a group and talk about in the dressing room, that actually, like, there's a base level of commitment that we have to get to, and if we fall before that, it's a hard dressing room to get back into?
Yeah, obviously we do, you know, have to address those things. And yeah, look, when we've seen the stats of what our tackle count was, and tackle count is a really good indicator of how hard you're working. Those are things that I suppose we had to really address and be honest with ourselves about too, that, you know, it wasn't really good enough in 2020. And yeah, we have addressed some of those things, particularly from last year. We haven't really spoke a whole lot about it too much this year yet. We just focused on each game as it became the league. And yeah, we just tried to get through the league as best we could. And like I said, a lot of us got out. Some lads picked up injuries during the league, and some picked up just before the league. But I think in the next few weeks, or next week that we have before the championship, I think we'll have a lot of lads back from injury and stuff like that as well. So there hasn't been too much in terms of, let's say, war cries or anything at the moment. So
right.
We're just really looking forward to 26 now.
Are you aware quite quickly after the game that the work rate wasn't there, that the tackle count wasn't what you would expect?
Well, I was on the bench that day. I had a problem with my hamstring, and I only came on for the last 10 minutes. But I don't know, from the stand, you just kind of know what kind of a group you're involved with, and you know how honest the group is, and you know that they're not out there, or anyone is out on the field, you know they're not out there trying not to tackle, or they're not trying to put the work in. Obviously, everyone on the field was aware it's a knockout game, it's a qualifier. Like, I know lads were trying their best, and it just probably wasn't happening on the day. Clare were just really on their game on the day. They were moving the ball, and there were lads just couldn't really we just couldn't really cope with it at the time. But I mean, it's not something that you sit in the dressing room afterwards and say we didn't work really hard, because I could see the devastation on people's faces. I could see, you know, even their body language, they're exhausted. So I knew everyone was trying their best. But I mean, look, at the tackle count spoke for itself, that we just did not work hard enough. But I know lads didn't go out there with the intention of not working hard enough, if you get what I'm saying.
Look, I think at this stage, we all know that, you know, Davy Fitzgerald isn't just about emotion, that there's a lot more to the man and his tactics and what he does. But last season's championship, without crowds, without proper Leinster Championship hurling atmosphere. Did it make a difference, do you think, in trying to get to use the old rugby cliche, emotional pitch right? That actually, if this is a scenario that nobody imagined, you dream of playing for your county, you don't really dream of playing in front of an empty stand.
Yeah, no, it isn't. It's not something that you do dream of when you're a kid of running out in Croke Park and to an empty stadium. It all comes in part and parcel of your pre-existing imagination. You know what I mean? You want to run out in front of a big crowd and the roar and the atmosphere. But look at it. It could have had a bit of an effect, but at the end of the day, there's two teams on the field that are dealing with the same situation. So we just got a few things wrong, I suppose, in last year's championship, and things like, look at Galway, a serious side, Clare, a very good side, and we just came up short against both of them. We just didn't put in a big performance in the both games.
Yeah, the league was a bit of a mixed campaign. The game that everyone ended up talking about was the match against Clare because of everything that followed with COVID and the close contacts. As players, what was your view of what happened on the day and the days afterwards and the accusations that were being thrown around? To be honest, I don't know how I managed. I said it in earlier interviews. I managed to stay away from any of the speculation that was going on or any of the back and forwardness of what was coming from the Clare camp or Wexford. I didn't really indulge in much of it or much of the controversy or whatever was going on.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.